Chapter 1698. The man in black was rendered speechless by the divine bird's words. If he really argued with it, wouldn't he become a little thing at its level? Scram! The man in black was a man of few words, so he only said one word to the divine bird. The divine bird shrunk its head, and could only ask Zhang Yingshi for help. Its face was full of obscenity and flattery as it smiled and said, "Oh, the most beautiful goddess in the world, this divine bird is smart and handsome, a little expert in treasure hunting. I don't eat much, never cause trouble, and I'm loyal and devoted to my master. Do you want a spiritual pet? Your previous master isn't dead yet you want to find a new master. This consort doesn't see any loyalty in you." Zhang Yingshi did not have a good impression of the divine bird. She hated betrayal the most. Seeing the divine bird like this, betrayal was probably a common thing. Flattery did not have the slightest effect, and the divine bird was rebuffed. However, it did not give up. This was a matter of life and death, and it was so thick-skinned that this little trouble would definitely not make it back down. "I've been taking care of him since he was young. How could I bear to see him being beaten to death? We relied on each other for survival since we were young. I'm smarter, and he relied on me to survive until now. All these years, I've been both his father and mother, searching for treasures for him, killing strong enemies, and I've been injured all over." The divine bird's mouth was full of nonsense. It sounded pitiful, as if it was about to pour out its heart and lungs. "I chose to recognize you as my master not only because I want to save my life, but also because I want to create a chance for my old master to escape. However, they are strong and we are weak. Only you can protect me here. If you are not willing to help, then let us die here." Sob, sob, sob. The divine bird cried pitifully. It was really pitiful when the heavens saw it. "Master, this parrot is quite smart. It can be a fun thing to keep it by your side. Why don't you?" The flower deity saw how pitiful the divine bird was. She liked flowers, trees, and some spiritual creatures very much. At this moment, she could not help but feel motherly love overflowing. "That's right, dojo master. They just want Mr. Ye's life. It's just a parrot. They won't be so ruthless." The rest of the heavenly chant ladies clenched their fists. Knowing that she was in the wrong, Yu Qingqing didn't dare to say anything lest it backfire. Thus, she could only wait for Zhang Yingshi's response. Zhang Yingshi didn't answer the divine bird. Instead, he stared at Yi Qinghan. At this moment, he had turned into lightning and was brandishing the dark gold rod. The rod shattered the shackles and was suppressing the great Arhat formation to the point that it would collapse at any moment. However, there were still so many experts eyeing them covetously. It was almost impossible for them to escape. Zhang Yingshi couldn't help but sigh. "Fine. From now on, you will follow Qingqing. Without my order, you are not allowed to leave the Heavens Chant Mansion." When the divine bird heard this, it was immediately overjoyed. Its eyes flashed again as it stared at the battlefield. Yi Qinghan swept through the army like a rolling mat, and his staff was like a long saber. The 18 Arhats formation could only protect itself, and he never gave the 10 supreme demons, Swan Patian, and the other bounty hunters a chance to attack. Boom! Boom! Swish! Swish! Time flew by and Yi Qinghan was about to break the Arhat formation. Impatience flashed in the eyes of the great Buddha Incinerate, Dream Supremacy, and the others. The three experts looked at each other and impatiently waved their hand. "Attack together! Kill them on the spot!" Swish! The three figures flashed, guarding 3 directions and locking down all directions. Swish! 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 The supreme demons drew their swords. The sword light was like a rainbow as it pierced through the Arhats. The sword chi tore through the void and headed straight for Yi Qinghan. The 10 experts attacked with the 18 Arhats as support. In a split second, the situation changed. Yi Qinghan was forced into a fluster. Swan Patian smiled evilly. With the 7 copper coins in his hand, his aura was even more powerful, emitting a dense killing intent. Huang, no matter how high your cultivation level is, you still can't escape from my grasp. Today you will die in my hands. Swish, swish. 7 stars lock the sky seal. Swish, swish, swish. Bang, bang. Yi Qinghan waved his dark metal rod, forming a defensive barrier around him. The 7 copper coins were knocked away one after another. He charged back at the supreme demons with rage in his eyes. Burning 1,000 miles. Swish. Yi Qinghan waved his long rod and struck out a fire dragon. It swallowed the 9 heavens and charged at the experts in front of him. Swish. The fire dragon roared, burning everything. Water overturns mountains and rivers. Swish. Swan Patian grabbed at the void and held 2 water dragons in his hand. He used the 8 trigrams to seal the water dragons and suppressed the fire origin. Ah, don't you know? The 4 heavenly beasts have merged with me. Your 5 elements Tao body is useless against me. Swan Patian laughed maniacally. With another thought, he controlled the 7 copper coins into the air. Seal his dark metal rod. Let me kill this bastard. Swan Patian roared. Swish, 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 swish. The 18 arhats swung their long rods at Yi Qinghan at the same time. The dark metal rod roared, and Yi Qinghan was forced to retreat. God-locking chains. Take away his soul. The Dream Sovereign gripped his walking stick and stared coldly at the battlefield, his cold gaze fixed on Yi Qinghan. 10 different colored chains appeared in the hands of the 10 ghost deities. Each of them contained the laws of order and law of order. They sealed off the surroundings and continuously extended, restricting Yi Qinghan to a very small area. 7 stars locked the sky. Seal. Bang. 2 chains locked the 2 ends of the dark metal rod. The other chains locked Yi Qinghan's hands and legs. Bang. 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 The 18 golden rods landed on Yi Qinghan's acupuncture point. Gotcha. Yi Qinghan's veins bulged and his eyes almost popped out from the shock of so many attacks. However, his eyes remained fixed on Swan Patian. If he sealed all the major acupoints in his body, then there would be no chance for him to escape. Boom. Yi Qinghan roared. His body expanded like an ancient giant. His strength was several times stronger than before. He forcibly blasted away the 18 arhats' golden rods. Buzz. The 18 golden rods were sent flying, but the 10 iron chains remained motionless. The 10 supreme demons stood in the distance, their legs rooted to the ground as if they were rooted to the ground. The 10 precepts on the iron chains released a divine glow, suppressing Yi Qinghan's divine power. Whoa! Rise! Yi Qinghan pulled the 10 supreme demon deities up from the ground with the strength of a mountain. Blood splattered all over the place as he clasped the chains behind his back and swung the demon deities around. However, the 10 supreme demon deities refused to let go no matter what. Bang! Bang! The supreme demons lost control and were flung around in the air. Swoosh swoosh! The 18 arhats and the 3 bounty hunters leaped up and blocked each of the chains. After the chains circled around the golden rod and the divine sword, they fiercely stabbed into the ground. Bang! Bang! The chains were connected to the ground. They were all sealed by the golden rods and divine swords. Even though Yi Qinghan's body was peerless, he couldn't fight against so many experts at once. The blood vessels in his arms swelled and roared. Endless power erupted from his body. Countless giant blood cells exploded. But it was too late. Swan Patian controlled the 7 black copper coins to pierce through the void. They formed the Skylock formation and attacked his 7 acupuncture points. Once they were sealed, he wouldn't even have a chance to resist. The spectators were dumbstruck. Lu Qingqing and the other heavenly chant maidens held their breaths as they looked at the battlefield in shock. Yi Qinghan's battle prowess was already very frightening. It was almost impossible for him to create another miracle. Chapter 1699. Everyone's eyes widened as they stared at the battlefield. When the dust settled, Yi Qinghan was trapped in the center. More than 30 experts were suppressing him, but he was about to break free. Boom, boom, boom. Crack, crack, crack. Yi Qinghan fiercely retracted his night metal staff, causing the ground beneath his feet to tremble and crack to appear. Roar. Yi Qinghan let out a draconic roar as he held the dark metal rod in front of his chest, protecting his meridians, chest, dantian, and arms. He wanted to prevent Swan Patian from killing him in one blow. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stared at the 7 copper coins. His eyes shone with a will that could shatter the heavens as he fought with Swan Patian for control of the coins. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The copper coins were trapped less than a meter in front of Yi Qinghan, but they couldn't advance any further. They were vibrating rapidly in the air. Pull his arm away! Swan Patian roared. Yi Qinghan pulled back his arm and held the dark metal rod in front of his chest. His meridians were blocked, so even if he attacked with all his might, he wouldn't be able to kill him in one blow. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 10 supreme demons climbed up from the ground and grabbed the golden rod in the Arhat's hand. They pulled at the chains with all their might, trying to pull Yi Qinghan's arm back. The chains were straight, destructive, orderly, murderous, radiant, all sorts of laws erupted, suppressing Yi Qinghan. The two sides were in a deadlock. The spectators were so quiet that they could hear their breath. Holy shit, how strong is Yi Qinghan's body? Even if revered Dream and great Buddha Ranmi work together, they might not be able to win. It might be difficult. Everyone began to discuss. At this moment, Swan Patian was anxious. He couldn't even control his own divine weapon. Meanwhile, the other experts were all tugging at the chains, seemingly intent on tearing Yi Qinghan apart. Yi Qinghan's soul had gathered and was not afraid of the soul-locking iron chains. He allowed the soul-locking iron chains to tear at his soul. However, his soul had already become one with nature. Even if it could be destroyed, it would not be the turn of this group of people. His soul has already reached the Great Circle. It's not realistic to rely on the soul-locking iron chain. Dream Sovereign saw the truth and said in a deep voice, "Do the 3 of us really have to take action?" Mu Zun frowned. If they wanted to kill Yi Qinghan at this moment, any one of the 3 would be able to do it. However, they couldn't afford to lose face. More than 30 super experts had joined forces, and yet they still couldn't do anything to Yi Qinghan. Wouldn't it be a joke for the world if these top experts of the older generation were to take action as well? Amitabha, Buddha said that if I don't go to hell, who will? In order to purify this evil creature, I will bear the infamy of the world. Buddha Ranmya suddenly said loudly. His voice resounded through the clouds. He took a light step forward and the wind and clouds changed. Clearly, this old monk was about to take action. Yu Qingqing was shocked. She waved her hand, wanting to take out a divine zither to help Yi Qinghan. However, she was firmly held down by Zhang Yingshi. If any of you dare to act recklessly today, I will expel you from the Heaven Chant Dojo. Let them kill you on the spot. Zhang Yingshi said coldly. The black-robed man did not move. Yi Qinghan's life or death, to him, was just a win or loss of 1,000,000 coins. It was not a big deal. In any case, the stimulation had passed and there was no more chance. He shook his head and said, "None of you are allowed to interfere. Life or death is up to fate. Success or failure is up to the heavens." He caused me to lose more than 1,000,000 faith coins. Even Yu Qingqing did not dare to make a move. The others had bet heavily that Yi Qinghan would die. At this moment, they were even more excited. Many of them had won at least a few hundred strands of faith coins. Dream Sovereign and the others had won at least 100,000 strands of faith coins. The Dream Supremacy had a smile on his face as he stared deeply at Yi Qinghan, as if he was looking at a dead man. Great Buddha Ranmi personally stepped forward and formed a seal with his hands. The Buddha seal left his body. At this moment, he was gathering Buddhist energy and preparing to kill in one blow. Yi Qinghan felt a strong killing intent. The veins all over his body bulged and his blood boiled. It was as if 10,000 horses were galloping. The mighty dragon aura rushed into the 9 heavens. Roar! A dragon roar came out of Yi Qinghan's mouth. His aura rushed to the 8 desolate. Dragon transformation. Roar! Whoosh, 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 the iron chains were fought over again. The weapons in the hands of the 18 arhats and the 3 7-star bounty hunters were broken and left the ground. Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped his feet and transformed into a dragon that soared into the 9 heavens. Swoosh! The record of yin-yang rushed out of his body and shot out rays of divine light that enveloped the battlefield. Countless profound rune weapons scattered and the heaven and earth melody was solemn and mighty, causing the blood of the heroes to surge. Since you want to play, I'll play with you to the end. The divine dragon's eyes looked down on the earth and shot out a sky-splitting will. The huge spiritual consciousness evolved into Yi Qinghan's appearance. He stood on the dragon's head and waved his flaming battle robe. The robe fluttered in the wind and burned the void. Heaven and earth, yin and yang law enforcement. 1 controls heaven and earth, 2 controls yin and yang, and 3 controls everything. Yi Qinghan activated the record of yin-yang and spun it rapidly in the air. The divine light enveloped the battlefield and countless people outside the city. With my life, I control reincarnation. Yin and yang as one, the land of light will be my domain. Yi Qinghan danced on the dragon's body. His palms formed the 8 trigrams and yin and yang, crazily gathering the celestial spiritual energy in the world. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan swallowed the blood-colored plant in his body. There was still more than half of it left, and it contained an unknown amount of celestial spiritual energy. At this moment, it was as if a flood had broken through a dam and surged in Yi Qinghan's body. The aura surged and rushed to his limbs and bones. Roar! Yi Qinghan looked to the sky and roared. His anger burned the sky. Not good, he is using the forbidden technique of the yin-yang Xian race, the yin-yang reincarnation. The land covered by the light will be his domain. There is no way to resist it. Swan Patian shouted in horror. He was the clearest about the yin-yang race. Do it, don't give him a chance. Dream Lord held his walking stick and rushed to the sky. The walking stick was like a sword and attacked the giant dragon's hand. Whoosh! Mu Zun pulled out his sword and cut through the order. He temporarily rose into the sky and his sword was like a rainbow. The sword flower was like a lotus. Boom! The great Buddha palm tore through the sky and smashed against the giant dragon. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Boom boom boom! 10 chains of laws soared into the sky and locked onto the giant dragon's neck, tail, and waist. They wanted to pull Yi Qinghan back to the ground. Whoosh! 7 stars locked the sky, sealed the heaven and earth. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Swan Patian stomped the ground and 7 copper coins flew out of his hand towards the giant dragon. The 18 arhats helped the 10 supreme demons pull the chains. Roar! Boom! The dragon swung its tail, shattering the order and breaking the chains of laws. The dragon roared and the energy spread in all directions. The 7 black copper coins buzzed and couldn't move forward. Yin-yang reincarnation. Whoosh! A divine light flashed and the entire battlefield became a domain. The yin-yang reincarnation appeared out of nowhere and expanded like a crack. It rushed towards Dream Lord and the others. I have cultivated the reincarnation Tao for 100 eras. It is not your turn to come to the city wall. Boom! A beam of light shot out from the Dream Master's walking stick and pointed at the crack in the yin-yang reincarnation, forcefully sealing it. He wanted to destroy Yi Qinghan's forbidden technique before it was ready. Chapter 1700. Yi Qinghan's forbidden technique was blocked by Dream Sovereign the moment it was unleashed. However, it was like an arrow on a bow. How could it be blocked when it was already shot out? The tearing force of the crack grew stronger and stronger. It was like a sharp arrow tearing through the Dream Supremacy's defensive aura. She hadn't been able to unleash her full power for long, so she couldn't defend herself against Yi Qinghan's attack. "Help me block this attack!" Dream Sovereign roared with all her strength. Boom! Buddha Ranmi's palm landed on the divine light and was blocked by the record of Yin Yang. It did not have any effect at all. At this moment, the 18 Arhats, the 10 supreme fiend gods, Swan Patian, and the other bounty hunters were all trying their best to hold on to the soul-locking chains. Dozens of them were actually unable to withstand Yi Qinghan's instant burst of forbidden technique. Whoosh! Mu Zun's palm landed on Dream Sovereign's back. Endless divine power flowed into Dream Sovereign's body and provided her with divine power. Amitabha Buddha Ranmi clasped his palms together and a giant Buddha appeared behind him. He was chanting Sanskrit chants and waves of Buddha seals were aimed at Yi Qinghan's attack. The Sanskrit chants were mighty and resounded throughout the heavenly river. The forbidden technique was showing signs of collapsing. The man in black suddenly became excited. He thought that he would lose his 1 million faith coins just like that. He did not expect to have another chance. Interesting. At this moment, Zhang Yingshi's eyes flashed as he focused all his attention on Yi Qinghan. He didn't know if Yi Qinghan could create a miracle and escape from the joint attack of the three forces. Because he didn't know, he couldn't help but turn to look at the divine bird. However, the divine bird had already left the battlefield. "Where is that stupid bird?" Zhang Yingshi frowned. With her cultivation, she did not even know when the divine bird left. The 11 heavenly chant ladies shook their heads in confusion because they were all staring at Yi Qinghan in shock. "That bastard, looks like he's running away. He doesn't even want the faith money. He probably knows that Yi Qinghan is going to lose. With such a divine pet, even if the master isn't killed, he'll be angered to death." Zhang Yingshi snorted. At this moment, the ones who were even more nervous were the outsiders who had placed heavy bets. Some of them had placed thousands of faith coins, while others had placed tens of thousands of faith coins. Some had even placed hundreds of thousands of faith coins. If Yi Qinghan were to escape, they would go bankrupt. Motherf *Ker, hurry up and die if you want to. What are you struggling for? Exactly. Now my heart is in suspense. That's 3,000 strands of faith money. If he escapes, I will have to sleep on the streets tomorrow. *CK off. What's a few thousand strands of wealth? My life's work has been accumulating for millions of years, and now I only have 30,000 strands of faith money left. If I bet it all on him, I'll have 3,000 strands of faith money. He must die. Everyone looked at each other coldly and angrily rebuked each other. Dojo Master Zhang, can I still place a bet now? I bet 100 strands of faith money that Yi Qinghan can escape. At this moment, a thin man with pointy ears and monkey-like cheeks came over with a wretched face. He held 10 strands of faith money and asked flatteringly. *CK off. This bastard only knows how to bet on dark horses. He has lost all his fortune over the years and is still acting recklessly. A burly man flew into a rage out of humiliation and angrily rebuked. Ha ha! He is famous for losing every bet he makes. With him betting, won't Yi Qinghan be dead for sure? Another young man was wild with joy and laughed. It seemed that he had bet a lot on Yi Qinghan's death. What? Most of the people had mocking faces as they angrily rebuked the thin, monkey-like man. However, Zhang Yingshi didn't mock or ridicule him. He waved his hand to the recording woman behind him and said, "The outcome hasn't been decided yet. You can accept it. 100 strands of faith money bet that Yi Qinghan can escape. The odds are 1 to 3,000. If Yi Qinghan escapes, he will get 30,000 strands of faith money." The thin monkey-like man was different from the black-robed man and the divine bird. The divine bird and the black-robed man were the bankers, while the thin monkey-like man was betting on Yi Qinghan's victory. However, the stakes were so small that they were negligible. The skinny monkey-like man grinned wickedly. He rubbed his hands together and took the betting card. He looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly and muttered, "Kid, you must win. If you win this round, I'll have won back all that I've lost." The black-robed man turned to stare at the thin monkey-like man and asked coldly, "Are you sure to lose every bet you make?" "Ahem," replying to the master, "for the time being. I haven't won yet." The thin monkey-like man grinned and said humbly, "Oh, if he dies this time, it's all because of you unlucky bastard that I lost more than 1,000,000 strands of faith money. I will kill you too. If he wins, it means that you have good luck and helped me win more than 10,000,000 strands of faith money. I will reward you with 100,000 strands of faith money. You better pray to the heavens." The black-robed man said coldly. Half-step Eternal Realm experts were so domineering and unreasonable. The thin monkey-like man was dumbfounded. He had just placed an unpopular bet. Did he have to pay with his life? Master Zhang, I don't want to bet anymore. Can I withdraw my bet?" The thin monkey-like man wanted to cry but had no tears. He was simply desperate. He just wanted to win big with a small bet. He didn't want to die. "No!" Zhang Yingshi coldly refused, expressionless. At this moment, Yi Qinghan swallowed dozens of pills at the same time. His body exploded, and his qi soared into the sky. Hua! Boom! Yi Qinghan was like a star exploding. The shockwave rushed out of the city and hit the city wall. The city's defensive array was activated. The city shook and the wall almost collapsed. Boom! Bang! Bang bang bang! Dream Sovereign and the others were shaken off. The 18 Arhats and Supreme Demons were all sent flying. The ground under their feet was shattered into powder. Their faces were pale. Puff! More than 10 experts coughed out blood. The people outside were almost shattered. Their pupils shrank, and they looked at Yi Qinghan in horror. Roar! Roar! Yi Qinghan roared, and his voice turned into a dragon's roar. He used the dragon's tail flick, sweeping away thousands of troops and smashing through their prison. However, after this move, Yi Qinghan's strength was almost exhausted. Although it was just a move, his strength had been completely unleashed. The lethality was more than 10 times stronger than before. If Dream Senior were to fight him alone, this attack would definitely be able to severely injure her. Universe Sweeping Staff. Whoosh! A golden light flashed, like a blade cutting through the void, and smashed towards the experts again. Boom! At this moment, Buddha Ranmi rose into the air. The Buddhist staff in his hand shone with Buddhist light. A huge Buddha statue appeared behind his body. At the same time, he held the staff and swung it towards Yi Qinghan. Bang! The dark gold staff and the Buddhist staff collided, creating another shockwave. The ground shook, the stars changed color, and the sky was covered by dark clouds. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Puff! Yi Qinghan's palm was crushed, and the internal organs of Buddha Ranmi were almost crushed. He coughed out blood and retreated. However, because of this attack, the Dream Supreme stepped forward with his walking stick. It was as if he was walking in the air. From his walking stick, he pulled out a godly weapon that could tear apart everything. The weapon was so cold that it made people's scalps tingle. Yi Qinghan, since my master wants your life, you definitely won't be able to live. Die. Roar! Whoosh! Dream Sovereign looked old and weak, but once she pulled out her sword, it was as if the sword would not return. It would not return until it killed someone. Her aura was majestic and mighty, and the sky was forced to give way. Yi Qinghan stood on the ground. His battle robe was stained with blood and the fire burned. He was burning his life force to fight. No wonder he was so crazy to fight against more than 30 experts. At this moment, his eyes were as sharp as lightning. He stared at Dream Sovereign's killing move. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. It was unknown whether he was seeking death or survival. Chapter 1701. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes. To outsiders, it looked like he had given up. Most of the people cheered. Skinny Monkey was crying. Others gambled, but he gambled with his life. Don't give up. You're the most handsome and domineering man I've ever seen. If you want to die, son of AB***, I'll look down on you. Skinny Monkey shrieked. His voice was shrill, as if he was being gang raped. The man in black waved his hand, gathering energy to form a blade. He wanted to kill Skinny Monkey. He was a man of his word. If Yi Qinghan lost, Skinny Monkey would die. But at this moment, Yi Qinghan raised his dark metal rod slightly. His aura increased greatly. The surrounding spiritual energy formed a torrent that could be seen clearly with the naked eye. Hua! Yi Qinghan waved his divine robes. The flames stung his eyes. His toes slid, drawing the yin-yang 8 trigrams on the ground. The yin-yang record turned into a divine armor that protected his body. The runes turned into armor that protected his acupuncture point. 1. Yi Qinghan held the dark metal rod with both hands. His eyes were still closed, but within a radius of 10,000 meters, no one could escape from his divine sense. Dream Supremacy rushed forward with his sword. His sword was filled with the intent to kill. Boom! Yi Qinghan swept his rod horizontally. He took the initiative to meet the attack. Thousands of rod shadows were formed, like thunder, majestic and majestic. The sword energy crashed into the dark metal rod. It crashed into Yi Qinghan, but it did not stop him. Ka! The ground beneath Yi Qinghan's feet crumbled. He twisted his waist, and the rod struck the divine sword. 1. The divine sword was bent by the rod. It trembled and whistled. The sound of the sword was deafening. Those standing outside spat out blood and retreated. Die! Dream Supremacy was enraged. His withered arm shook and the divine sword bounced up. It shot forward like a rainbow, pushing Yi Qinghan back. The sword energy was even more ferocious. It blocked the dark metal rod and sent Yi Qinghan flying. Yi Qinghan flew backwards as Dream Supremacy rushed forward, forcing him to retreat. Fortunately, the night metal staff's grade was too high, and the divine sword was unable to destroy it. It only left a scratch on its surface. Yi Qinghan's starry eyes and Dream Supremacy's turbid, black hole-like eyes stared at each other with a strong murderous intent. "You're dead!" the Dream Elder scolded. "We'll talk when you're stepping on my dead body." Yi Qinghan stomped on the ground and stabilized himself. His voice had become extremely low and hoarse, and he was extremely exhausted. In the short time it took for an incense stick to burn, he had exhausted all of his divine power. At this moment, he was relying entirely on his physical body. In today's battle, he had successfully increased his combat strength by 10 times at the cost of burning his life force. Otherwise, he would have been killed by this group of people long ago. Although this battle was a glorious defeat, the price of glory was the exhaustion of life. Even if he was not killed by them, he did not have much time left. Ding! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan suddenly leaned to the side and swept his long leg, kicking towards Dream Supremacy's head. Dream Supremacy's sword momentum shifted, and her body lost control. Her head actually rushed towards Yi Qinghan's leg. Dream Supremacy was shocked and had no choice but to block with her hands. Boom! Gotcha! Yi Qinghan's leg was as fast as lightning, enough to split mountains and split rock. It landed on Dream Supremacy's elbow joint, shattering her aged bones. Her wrist hit her head. Dream Supremacy screamed in agony. Her bones were shattered, and the force of the blow to her head was enough to make her dizzy. At this moment, her body was like a kite with a broken string, smashing into the ground. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 10 supreme demons rushed towards Dream's supremacy. The red-clothed demon caught her, but the impact made her unable to stand firm. She was also sent flying. Boom! Thud, thud, thud. The remaining 9 supreme demons continued to hold onto the red-clothed demon. They stepped on the ground continuously, and only managed to stand firm after taking 100 steps back. Yi Qinghan fell from midair, his dark gold rod smashing into the ground. He knelt on one knee, his black hair dancing in the wind. He was bleeding from his 7 orifices, and the last of his divine power was exhausted. He was only left with brute force. Boom! The shock wave swept up a cloud of dust, and it took a while for it to dissipate. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan and could not help but gasp. This guy can really take a beating. He's still alive after so long. My heart is in a mess, and I'm afraid he'll run away. A young man without any self-control said what everyone was thinking. However, Mu Zun and Buddha Ranmi were not nervous at all. If Yi Qinghan could run away, then there was no need to continue fighting, and they would not put him on the wanted list in the future. Amitabha, benefactor, your murderous nature is too strong. If we don't purify your evil nature, you will bring disaster to the world. Buddha Ranmi said with a pitiful expression. Get lost, you bastard. You're just a beast in human clothing. What do you mean by pitiful? The so-called Buddha is merciful. Look at your fierce face, and the murderous aura on your body is not as strong as mine. Only you know how many people you've killed. Although the Buddha's will is good, it is controlled by a group of beasts. It is only a tool to bring disaster to the world. Yi Qinghan stood up with the dark gold rod in his hand and sneered. Benefactor, your cultivation is not easy. Why are you so stubborn? Buddha Ranmi pretended to be sad and shook his head regretfully. Why are you wasting words with him? Just kill him and hand his soul to hell. Hang his corpse on the great Buddhist city as a warning to others. Mu Zun said coldly. This trash doesn't need the 2 high sovereigns to take action. I will do it for you. Swan Patian arrogantly stepped forward with 7 black coins in his hand. His momentum soared to the sky. Yi Qinghan looked at Swan Patian with disdain and mocked with a hoarse voice. Trash, you think you can kill me now? Even if I don't have any divine power, killing you is as easy as waving my hand. Is that so? Then let the world see who will be the final winner. Swan Patian cruelly smiled and glared at Yi Qinghan with resentment. The coins in his hand suddenly shot out with an irresistible force towards Yi Qinghan's 7 major meridians. Bang! Bang! Yi Qinghan swung the dark gold rod as fast as lightning and struck the coins away at almost the same time. However, his body didn't move at all. Swan Patian was furious. Although Yi Qinghan's divine power was exhausted, he couldn't win by much. Moreover, Yi Qinghan was still burning his life force. How could it be so easy to kill him? Trash will always be trash. You'll never be able to cause any waves. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. Go away. Let me kill him. Mu Zun sternly reprimanded. I can kill him. Swan Patian was so angry that his eyes were blinded by rage. He ignored the danger and personally charged towards Yi Qinghan. I've been waiting for this moment. If I don't kill you, I'll be letting down the countless creatures of the chaos state and the trillions of citizens of the great desolate state. Yi Qinghan angrily roared. At the same time, countless vines rushed out from his body. The star-twining vines rushed out as fast as lightning and bound Swan Patian's arms, legs, and head at the same time. He couldn't break free in a short time. Die. Even if I die today, you'll die before me. Yi Qinghan violently attacked and swung his rod at Swan Patian's head. No. Swan Patian screamed in horror. He was so desperate that he couldn't even muster a trace of strength to break free from the vines. Boom! Yi Qinghan's roll contained a brute force capable of destroying heaven and earth. It was as if he had violently slashed through the void. Who could contend against him? Bang! Ah! The dark gold rod smashed into Swan Potion's head and forcefully shattered his body. Swan Potion's soul let out a mournful scream as it was instantly annihilated. Chapter 1702. Yi Qinghan laughed heartily after killing Swan Potion. I will not regret my revenge even if I die. Boom! Yi Qinghan stabbed his staff into the ground and glared at Mu Zun. He had already made up his mind to die and showed no fear. Since you have no regrets even if you die, then die. Mu Zun did not pity his dead subordinate at all. He swung his sword at Yi Qinghan, and the surrounding precepts of space were distorted, trapping Yi Qinghan and preventing him from moving. Whoosh! 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 The sword cut through the vines and headed straight for Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan did not dodge and allowed the sword to stab him. Poochie! Yi Qinghan's body swayed slightly and dodged Mu Zun's killing blow. However, the divine sword still pierced through his chest and came out from his back. The destructive sword energy wreaked havoc in Yi Qinghan's flesh, but it was firmly clamped down by Yi Qinghan's muscles. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly and he sneered, "You bounty hunters provoked me first. Kill me. You'll die first." Boom! Yi Qinghan grabbed Mu Zun's sword-wielding hand with his left hand and smashed the staff with his right hand towards Mu Zun's head. Bang! The dark gold staff was as fast as lightning and smashed into Mu Zun's head, making him dizzy. Poochie! Yi Qinghan moved forward and the divine sword pierced into his body. He gave up on the dark gold staff and punched Mu Zun's throat, shattering it. Then, he grabbed Mu Zun's head and pressed it down. His knee met Mu Zun's head. Bang! Crack! Mu Zun did not expect Yi Qinghan to be so ruthless. He took the sword head-on and used his body to make Mu Zun dizzy. In the end, Mu Zun lost all resistance and his head was almost crushed by Yi Qinghan's knee. Poochie! Mu Zun lost control of his body and forcefully pulled the sword out of Yi Qinghan's body. Blood splattered everywhere. Yi Qinghan spat out blood, but Mu Zun directly fainted and fell heavily onto the ground. 2 of the 3 great experts had died. Yi Qinghan grimaced in pain. His soul began to dissipate, but he smiled cruelly at Buddha Ranmi. Amitabha, such a devil is unworthy of being cultivated. This old monk will take your life on behalf of Heavenly Buddha. Whoosh! Grand Buddha Ranmi no longer approached Yi Qinghan. He formed a mudra with both hands and a bright Buddhist light formed a huge Buddhist hand. It descended from the sky and wanted to suppress Yi Qinghan. The distance between them was too great. Yi Qinghan's physical body was of no use. Without his divine power, he could only wait for death. No. Yi Qinghan, you trash can't die. Otherwise I'm dead. The skinny monkey-like man looked at the black-clothed man in horror. He saw that the black-clothed man was gathering his energy again to kill him. He couldn't help but roar in despair. But how could Yi Qinghan defy the heavens? Without divine power, his physical strength was almost gone. How could he be compared to a Buddha? Grand Buddha Ranmi, didn't Buddhists say that saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda? If you kill him, it's the same as killing me. You old bald donkey, you won't have a good death. I will expose your true face. You have 18 wives, 32 sons, more than 100 daughters, and countless concubines. What bullshit Buddha is this? You're just a beast wearing human skin. The skinny monkey-like man was furious and roared crazily. Whoosh! This was great. Tens of thousands of people laughed and waited for a good show. Grand Buddha Ranmi was burning with anger, but killing Yi Qinghan was the most important thing. Therefore, before his aura dissipated, his palm struck down from the sky like lightning. Whoosh! At this time, the Buddhist light in the sky shrouded the great Buddha city for 100,000 li wang. Inside the great Buddha city, the heavenly Buddha statue behind the heavenly chant mansion suddenly reacted. Its eyes bloomed with Buddhist light as a lifelike heavenly Buddha gathered together under the power of faith. It formed a mudra with one palm and pressed out of the city. It looked majestic, capable of destroying millions of li, but there was no fluctuation of divine power. Grand Buddha Rami's legs went soft from fright, and he fell to his knees with a plop. He screamed in fear, "My Buddha is merciful, this little monk definitely has no wife or children. Buddha Lord, please don't listen to this lowly person's slander." Whoosh! It's the heavenly Buddha. Whoa, heavens, the heavenly Buddha is here. It actually alarmed the heavenly Buddha. The crowd was in an uproar, looking at the heavenly Buddha image above the Buddha statue in horror. Although it looked ordinary, everyone thought that the heavenly Buddha was just doing it on purpose to keep a low profile. "My Buddha is merciful, as long as you lay down the butcher's knife, you can become a Buddha. You people are so aggressive, yet you're still in my blessed Buddha temple's territory. Aren't you violating the principles of Buddhism?" A majestic voice rumbled, spreading far and wide. Dream Senior was shocked, not expecting the heavenly Buddha to come out. This was an existence on the same level as the Lord of Hell. Even if it was just a wisp of soul controlling the heavenly Buddha statue, it could still destroy everything in front of it. "Greetings, Lord Heavenly Buddha." Dream Senior quickly knelt, not daring to look directly at the heavenly Buddha image in the sky. "Greetings, Supreme Heavenly Buddha." The heroes knelt down one after another, and so did the people, not daring to raise their heads. Zhang Yingshi frowned, and the corner of his eyes twitched, but he still knelt down with the people of Heavenly Chant Mansion. Only the black-robed man had some doubts in the corner of his eyes. He looked at the heavenly Buddha image in astonishment, thinking, why doesn't this heavenly Buddha have any divine power fluctuations? It only has a majestic aura, which is brought by the heavenly Buddha statue itself. The black-robed man did not kneel, but the others did not dare to not kneel. The black-robed man was a half-step eternal realm expert, so he could see eternity without kneeling. This was the rule. Only the black-robed man dared to raise his head, but he would not kindly remind those people. After all, if Yi Qinghan could survive, he could also win more than 10 million faith coins. 10 million, even a half-step eternal realm expert would be tempted. "Do you know your wrongs?" The heavenly Buddha image's voice was hoarse and illusory, making people unable to distinguish its true voice. A heavenly Buddha should be so ethereal. Great Buddha Rami was the most terrified. He repeatedly kowtowed and begged for mercy. "My lord, this little monk knows his wrongs. Thank my lord for enlightening me." Dream Senior frowned and knelt on the ground, not daring to raise his head or refute. However, this was the order of the Lord of Hell. Who would dare to disobey? "Lord Heavenly Buddha, it is my lord's order to take Yi Qinghan away. How can this little one refuse?" Dream Senior asked in fear. "Sigh. My Buddha is merciful. This Buddha will speak to him personally. You can leave first," the heavenly Buddha image said patiently. After that, the heavenly Buddha image no longer spoke. Great Buddha Rami quickly knelt on the ground and crawled into the great Buddha city. The seven-star hunter quickly carried Mu Zun away from the battlefield and went straight to the bounty hunter branch headquarters. Dream Senior gritted his teeth and slowly got up. He wanted to leave with the 10 supreme ghosts and deities. However, when he looked at Yi Qinghan's position, he was nowhere to be seen. He had already escaped. Yi Qinghan had escaped alive. Thousands of people were anxious and crying in despair. The happiest person was the skinny monkey-like man. Not only did he win 30,000 strands of faith, he also won back his life. On top of that, the black-robed man gave him 100,000 strands of faith. How could he not be happy? He was so excited that he was dancing with joy. The black-robed man smiled and looked in the direction Yi Qinghan had disappeared. He waved his hand to Zhang Yingshi and said indifferently, excluding the money from that B*th bird and what it won, This little bastard's 30,000 strands of faith and principle, and another 100,000 strands of faith as a reward. Give the rest to me." Zhang Yingshi bowed slightly and said, "I will obey the Lord's order. I will not charge you a service fee this time. Please keep it well." At this time, on the heavenly Buddha statue behind the heavenly chant mansion, the divine bird wretchedly slid down its arm. It shivered and ran back to the heavenly chant mansion. The heavenly Buddha's afterimage in the sky had already dissipated. Chapter 1703. The group of people left in a daze, especially the great Buddha. He ran to the Buddha statue behind the heaven chant mansion and kowtowed, begging for mercy. Zhang Yingshi looked around again, but he still couldn't find any trace of the divine bird. He could only leave with the beauties of the heaven chant mansion. The one who benefited the most was the skinny monkey-like man. At this moment, he was being stared at by countless people with murderous eyes. If he hadn't shouted out the secret of the great Buddha, perhaps the Lord of Buddha wouldn't have appeared. They lost all their money because of him. The skinny monkey-like man trembled in fear and quickly ran back to the city with Zhang Yingshi. The city was peaceful, and the Buddha's aura shrouded the land. No one dared to behave atrociously. As for the black-clothed man, no one dared to show him any hostility. The others could only leave resentfully. Some of them lost their family fortune, and some of them cried and wailed. Losing so much in such a short period of time, anyone would feel the pain. The black-clothed man frowned. He looked at the heavenly Buddha statue and thought to himself, the heavenly Buddha shouldn't be here personally. Yi Qinghan is just an ant. How could a high and mighty eternal being like him save him? What's more, Yi Qinghan killed 18 arhats and a Buddha from a small temple. He is also wanted by the blessed Buddha temple. Others may not know about the ruthlessness of the blessed Buddha temple's Buddhas, but I do. This group of people takes advantage of every opportunity. The Lord of Buddha is naturally such a person, otherwise he would have already taken action. Whoosh! The black-clothed man stepped into the city and went straight to the heaven chant mansion. The Buddha appeared inexplicably and didn't look like a real Buddha at all. He must investigate thoroughly. Inside the Heaven Song Gymnasium, the divine bird was hiding at the door of the heaven room, shivering and muttering to herself, "Great heavenly Buddha, I did not mean to blaspheme you. Please turn a blind eye." Not long after, Zhang Yingshi brought the girls back to the heaven chant mansion. After reaching the 20th floor, his face was full of anger. "How dare you? You dare to secretly harbor a wanted criminal and go against my will. Do you still have me in your eyes?" Zhang Yingshi angrily rebuked. The chess saint and the other heavenly chant maidens lowered their heads in fear. "Dojo master, the sisters only helped me because they didn't know that the person I was hiding was Yi Qinghan. That's why they helped me. If you're still angry, then please punish me." Lu Qingqing stepped forward and knelt in front of Zhang Yingshi. "Club master, please calm down. We don't want to go against you. It's just that our sisterhood is deep, and we don't want to betray our big sister. If you want to punish us, then punish us as well," the chess saint said. "That's right, dojo master. We won't betray our sisters. Naturally, we won't betray you. Please don't be angry." The 10 heavenly chant maidens tried to persuade him. Zhang Yingshi's face was filled with rage, and killing intent flashed across his eyes. He sneered coldly, "What deep sisterhood! For the sake of your sister, you even turned a deaf ear to my words. Yet you still dare to say that you won't betray me." The 11 heavenly chant ladies all knelt down. "Zither girl, why did you save Yi Qinghan? Don't tell me that you fell in love with him at first sight just because he's good-looking but overbearing and arrogant," Zhang Yingshi said coldly. Yu Qingqing lowered her head and didn't dare to tell the truth. If she told them that Yi Qinghan had copied a copy of the Quiet Sky Zither score, it was estimated that the heavenly chant mansion would have one more wanted person. "Dojo master, Is a man like Yi Qinghan not worthy of your love? He cried when he heard the zither music, and the emotions in his eyes when he saw me and heard the zither music are completely different. He's one of a kind. I really like him, Lu Qingqing replied with certainty. Since you won't tell the truth, then I'll kill you today to prevent you from betraying me. Zhang Yingshi's eyes flashed coldly as he waved his hand to suppress Lu Qingqing. My admiration for him is like a torrential river, the overflowing yellow river, unable to be retracted. Even I, a divine pet like my master so much, let alone a young lady like the zither girl who hasn't seen the world. She didn't lie to you. It's a pity to kill such a beauty. You can even make money if you keep her. If you really can't, I'll buy her for 10,000 strands of faith money. It's a waste to kill her anyway, so you might as well sell her to me. Zhang Yingshi flew into a rage out of humiliation. He retracted his hand and stared at the divine bird as he mocked. So your loyal divine pet hasn't run away yet. How could I run away? I know that my master is blessed by the heavens and will definitely be fine, so I came back in advance to celebrate. I won a small sum of 4 million strands of faith money, plus the capital, that's a total of 54 million strands of faith money. You're my new master, so I'll give you 10%. I'll give you the capital of 140,000 strands of faith money, and you'll protect me. How about it? The divine bird flattered the divine bird. Even Zhang Yingshi was stunned by its boldness. The anger on his face gradually dissipated. He waved his hand to deduct the 140,000 strands of faith money and put them into a larger storage ring before tossing it to the divine bird. Zither girl, today the divine bird will plead for mercy on your behalf and spare your life. You must atone for your sins by doing good deeds. Don't disappoint me again, Zhang Yingshi said coldly. Thank you, Dojo Master. The 11 Heavens chant ladies thanked him one after another. They still had lingering fears as they watched Zhang Yingshi enter the earth room. The divine bird looked at the storage ring filled with faith money and smiled wickedly. It carefully hid it around its neck as if it was afraid of losing it. Yu Qingqing and the others brought the divine bird back to the heaven room. They couldn't help but exhale a mouthful of turbid air. Their bodies went limp as they collapsed on the soft cushions. The divine bird also breathed a sigh of relief and secretly said, Master, I'm really loyal to you. For you, I didn't hesitate to risk my life. You must run far away. I wonder if Yi Qinghan will be able to escape? Yu Qingqing asked worriedly. Don't worry, my master is very smart. This time, if he wasn't tricked by that son of a bitch Liang Zhengtai, he wouldn't have been injured. Since he escaped, he won't be caught again. The divine bird lay lazily beside Yu Qingqing with its 2 legs facing the sky. However, its eyes flashed with a cold light and its hostility was very strong. It coldly snorted, Liang Zhengtai, you tricked my master. Don't give me another chance next time, or I'll kill you. At this moment, the black-clothed man stepped into the Heavens Chant Mansion and returned to the top floor. He stared at the heavenly Buddha statue but didn't find anything strange. He couldn't help but be curious. Who was it that used the faith in the heavenly Buddha statue to disguise himself as a heavenly Buddha and scare off the 3 major forces? How bold! I wouldn't dare to do so. However, since you helped me win 10 million faith money, I won't expose you now. When Dream Sovereign and the others return to Hell to investigate, Yi Qinghan will probably have escaped. Consider it 10 million faith money to buy his life. The black-clothed man silently muttered to himself. He drank a cup of tea and stood at the window looking in the direction Yi Qinghan escaped. The corner of his mouth revealed a sneer. Chapter 1704. Dream Venerate left with the 10 supreme demons helplessly, but the more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was amiss. Are you saying that the blessed Buddha's Lord is a kind person? Why would you personally show up for an ant? Dream Zun asked, puzzled. According to past experience, this is absolutely impossible. If it is true, then there is only one possibility, and that is Yi Qinghan is his illegitimate son. Sobbing baby demon said sternly, "Don't talk nonsense. Do you think an eternal being is something you can make up?" Dream Venerate angrily rebuked. Slap. Dream Venerate slapped him and coldly scolded, "Apologize." Sobbing baby demon did not dare to say more. He realized that he had said something wrong, so he quickly bowed to the west and said, "This little demon has said something wrong, please forgive me, blessed Buddha." Then, Dream Venerate left and rushed to the land of despair. At the Bounty Hunter branch, Mu Zun had just woken up. When he heard that this matter had alarmed the heavenly Buddha and allowed Yi Qinghan to escape, he couldn't help but be furious. He ordered, "Inform all the experts in the major cities of the branch to secretly hunt down Yi Qinghan." Among the 3 major forces, 2 still wanted to kill Yi Qinghan. Only Buddha Rainmia did not dare to act recklessly. He concentrated on studying Buddhism and offered double the offerings to the blessed Buddha temple. He was afraid that his superiors would blame him, so he ordered to hunt down the skinny monkey. The skinny monkey had already escaped. He did not dare to stay in the great Buddha city. With more than 100,000 faith coins in his hand, he could go anywhere and buy a small lord. At this moment, in a barren mountain range, there were only ancient thorny trees and mountain beasts. A figure shuttled through the thorny trees, surrounded by blood. This person was Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan clutched his chest. His injuries this time were much more serious than before. His vitality was almost depleted. Even if he fully recovered, he would only have a few thousand years of lifespan left. Unless he could find an extreme yin or yang treasure to make up for his yin and yang lifespan. However, such treasures were too rare. Cough, cough, cough. Puff, Yi Qinghan kept coughing up blood. The thorns were covered in blood. The start-twisting vine took the initiative to help Yi Qinghan, and its speed increased by a lot. Yi Qinghan lay on the start-twisting vine, traveling day and night. After about 3 months, he finally returned to the 8 trigrams Yang village. At this moment there were countless people who wanted to pick up the goods. They had already formed a long line, but the stock had already been used up. Bai Yuran had no choice but to announce that the alchemist was in seclusion. Late at night, Yi Qinghan was covered in blood. He was brought back to the courtyard by the start-whining vine and thrown to Bai Yuran. Then, the start-whining vine turned into an imprint and returned to Yi Qinghan's body to replenish his divine power and vitality. Bai Yuran was shocked. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so heavily injured. He hurriedly placed the best soul-amassing pills into Yi Qinghan's mouth and boiled a bucket of hot water. He took off his clothes and placed him in a wooden bucket. After washing him, he finally placed him on the bed. Yi Qinghan still didn't wake up. The bloody hole in his chest was gradually sealed by the star-twining vine. The multicolored snake and little golden crow had already been drained of their essence and spirit by Yi Qinghan and had also fallen unconscious. Bai Yuran was only a level 4 sector lord. This bit of divine power was practically useless to Yi Qinghan. He could only allow him to adjust himself. Several days later, Yi Qinghan slowly woke up. His eyes were lifeless, his lips were dry, and the spirit in his eyes was starting to dissipate. He was extremely tired. Looking at Bai Yuran, he recalled that he was brought back to the Yang village by the star-twining vine. "Did old Liang come back to find you?" Yi Qinghan's hoarse voice was somewhat tired as he asked in a low voice. "He did. He wanted to bring me back, but I rejected him." "Your injuries were caused by Uncle Liang?" Bai Yuran asked in shock. Yi Qinghan sneered and shook his head. "No, but it's about the same." Bai Yuran was somewhat apologetic and nervous. He didn't think that his sect would be involved in the mission to kill Yi Qinghan. "You don't have to blame yourself. This matter has nothing to do with you or the Spirit Maiden sect. Every injustice has its perpetrator. I will find those people to seek justice, Yi Qinghan said in a muffled voice. After speaking, Yi Qinghan let Bai Yuran guard the door while he sat down. He took out the transparent crystal that he obtained before. The crystal contained endless immortal spiritual energy. Even if it couldn't recover his life force, it could heal his injuries. Endless immortal spiritual energy was absorbed by Yi Qinghan, and the immortal spiritual energy also automatically flowed into Yi Qinghan's body. There were at least 1,000 wounds on his frail fleshly body. Some were small, while others were ghastly. Yi Qinghan healed them one by one. His internal organs had been slightly damaged, but they were slowly recovering. Time flew by day. Yi Qinghan was quickly recovering, but the life force that was burned still hadn't returned. He needed divine medicine to replenish it. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's skin no longer emitted divine light. There was even some death aura lingering around him. His explosive power was no longer as fierce as before. He was like a dying old man, but his face didn't change. I will recover sooner or later. So many great calamities didn't kill me. This time I will also survive. Yi Qinghan said firmly to himself. 1,300 years of life force. In the last 1,300 years, he had to find a divine treasure that understood yin and yang. Otherwise, he would have to rely on an eternal. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. 1,300 years, the divine bird still wasn't by his side. It was almost impossible to rely on himself to find a divine treasure that understood yin and yang unless he bought it himself. However, the value of a divine treasure that understood yin and yang was estimated to be no less than 5 million faith coins. Moreover, it was priceless. At dawn, Yi Qinghan got up and left the courtyard. He went straight to village chief Yang Chun's courtyard. When everyone saw Yi Qinghan, they all said, "So it's Alchemist Yang. You've come out of seclusion. That's great. Can we get the divine medicine now?" Yi Qinghan smiled and nodded. "In one day you can go to the pavilion to get the pills. Realm-breaking pills, soul-amassing pills, and so on. As long as I have the materials, I will definitely do my best to provide them to everyone." Yi Qinghan sent away the shop owners and quickly entered Yang Chun's room. When Yang Chun saw Yi Qinghan come, he was pleasantly surprised. He was really afraid that Yi Qinghan wouldn't return. "Uncle Yang, can you do me a favor?" Yi Qinghan stared at Yang Chun and asked in a low voice. "Nephew, if you have a problem, just say it. If I can do it, I won't frown." Yang Chun patted his chest and promised. "That's great. I'm in urgent need of a divine medicine that understands yin and yang. I can refine a longevity pill. A pill in hand is equivalent to an extra life. As long as Uncle Yang can help me buy it, I'll pay for it. After I refine the pill, I'll give you a longevity pill." Yi Qinghan whispered in Yang Chun's ear, "But Uncle Yang, don't make it public. Don't say that I'm buying it. Just say that you want to buy it. As for the reason, you can make it up yourself." When Yang Chun heard this, he knew that this was a big deal. A longevity pill was worth 1,000,000 faith coins. If Yi Qinghan was willing to give it to him, he naturally wouldn't let it go. "Leave it to me. Even if I have to risk my life, I'll help you find a divine medicine that understands yin and yang," Yang Chun said excitedly. Chapter 1705. Yang family village was bustling as usual. Yi Qinghan resumed his pill concoction. Divine Medicine Pavilion was bustling with activity again. Large amounts of shops came to purchase goods in advance, but the price was raised by half. Although some people were unhappy, they couldn't do anything about it. Who asked Yi Qinghan to provide such good goods? Everyone was willing to buy. Yi Qinghan raised the price because he had no choice. He was in urgent need of faith money. 5 million strands of yin knowing yang divine medicine. Moreover, it was priceless. To obtain such a divine medicine, one had to have at least 6 million strands of faith money. Otherwise, even if it was placed in front of him, he wouldn't be able to buy it. However, his lifespan was getting shorter and shorter. After concocting pills for half a day, he would be exhausted. Yi Qinghan was helpless. In order to survive, he could abandon all principles as long as he could survive. Yi Qinghan looked at Bai Yuran and asked indifferently, I want to have yin and yang intercourse with you and cultivate yin and yang dual cultivation. Are you willing? Bai Yuran was startled, but he immediately lowered his head shyly. Before he could reply, a horrifying voice rang in his ears again. However, I can't give you any promise. To tell you the truth, I only have 1,300 years of lifespan left. To you, it might be the time to break through to the next realm. But to me, it's my entire lifespan. Therefore, I need to absorb the yin energy of women to achieve yin and yang harmony. You should understand that I need large amounts of women, and it's best if they are virgins. Yi Qinghan said coldly. This sentence almost caused Bai Yuran to break down. Agreeing to Yi Qinghan was equivalent to pushing her man to countless women. Moreover, she had to greet them with a smile. How could she endure such a thing if she truly loved a man? However, Yi Qinghan didn't do this. 1,300 years wasn't enough for him to reach the 9th level of the Sector Lord realm. Time would quickly pass, and at that time, he would only be buried in the soil. Countless years of cultivation, ultimately turning into a pile of soil. This was truly heartbreaking. In the face of life, all principles and bottom lines had to be compromised. Yi Qinghan was a human, not a saint. What he wanted wasn't something as simple as revenge. He wanted to become a truly supreme existence, so that not even the heavenly Tao or the eternal ones could control his own fate. Therefore, he couldn't just sit here and wait for death. He had to take the initiative to face this disaster. Using a woman's yin essence to replenish his own life was very inhumane. The only thing he could do was to strengthen the other party's cultivation. This was equivalent to using each other, and they wouldn't owe each other anything. Bai Yuran was speechless and had an ugly expression. His heart ached that Yi Qinghan only had 1,300 years of lifespan left. What made his heart ache even more was that the man he liked was only using him when they had sex. If you don't want to, then return to the Spirit Lady sect. With an expert like Elder Liang holding down the fort, the Spirit Lady sect will definitely become a first-rate force. Your cultivation will also increase very quickly. Perhaps you will have a chance to stand shoulder to shoulder with me, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. I'm sorry, husband. I can't do it. Bai Yuran lowered his head and replied. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips and smiled bitterly. Who could do such a thing? You're very good. Unfortunately, I don't have the fortune. Yuran, I'll give you a secret technique called the heaven-reaching record. It's the most precious secret technique of the yin-yang race. As long as you can comprehend it, it's not impossible for you to reach the 9th level of the Sector Lord realm. This is the best blessing I can give you. Yi Qinghan handed over the heaven-reaching record and pushed it in front of Bai Yuran. He said calmly, Take it and leave. Bai Yuran looked at the heaven-reaching record and hesitated for a while before taking it. He bowed and said, I hope you can keep your life. Bai Yuran turned around and refused to look back. Because her face was filled with tears, they fell uncontrollably. They were like sparkling pearls. She couldn't stand Yi Qinghan using the yin energy of women to replenish his life source. However, she also hoped that he could live. So, what the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. She chose to leave. Yi Qinghan looked at Bai Yuran leaving and instead felt a sense of relief. He didn't feel guilty for using each other. However, if he hurt the woman who loved him and helped him, that was unforgivable. His Tao heart wouldn't be able to accept it. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He sat cross-legged on the edge of the bed and continued to absorb the immortal spiritual energy from the transparent crystal to recover some of his tiredness. After sending a large amount of divine pills to the hall, he informed everyone that the divine pill masters in the divine pill pavilion would continue to serve as Tao companions. There was no limit to the number of people. The requirement was to be a virgin and have a cultivation level above that of a low god. The treatment was 1,000 strands of faith money per year and 1 low-grade pill per day. Within a year, their cultivation level would be raised to the supreme god level. For female cultivators without roots, such benefits were very good. It was enough to attract countless female cultivators. Divine pill masters were under great pressure and needed female cultivators to serve them. This was a very normal thing. Who would doubt a man's 7 emotions and 6 desires? Therefore, everyone had a smile on their faces. That, you know what I mean, look filled the entire Yang family village. After Yi Qinghan's small order spread out, even some of the unmarried women of the Yang family village took the initiative to come to him. They had good looks and were very confident in themselves. They felt that their charm would definitely make him stop and not take other concubines. They definitely wouldn't be abandoned. Yi Qinghan originally didn't want to offend the people of the Yang family village. However, the parents of these women came personally and repeatedly promised that if Yi Qinghan wasn't satisfied, he could chase them away and wouldn't make things difficult for them. Yi Qinghan could only smile bitterly. For his life, he had to offend them even if he didn't want to. In order to curry favor with Yi Qinghan, these women paid a great price. They served him without any self-respect. But Yi Qinghan only wanted to borrow their yin essence to balance the yin and yang in his body. Time flew by. After 100 years, Yi Qinghan hadn't consumed much of his life force. Even though he had absorbed so much yin essence, it was only enough to maintain his most basic life. If this continues, won't I become a demon? Yi Qinghan clenched his fists in dissatisfaction. He had gone to Yang Chun several times, but that sort of divine medicine that could control yin and yang was always priceless. It was simply impossible to buy it. In 100 years, Yi Qinghan had earned over 3 million strands of faith money. But after subtracting the rewards from those people and women, what was left was only 3 million strands of faith money. It would take him at least another 200 years to earn 5 million faith money. The only good news was that the women who slept with Yi Qinghan all had their cultivation increase by leaps and bounds. Even if Yi Qinghan didn't need them, they could stay and work. They could even practice alchemy. Yi Qinghan would teach them. They also had a good place to settle down. Therefore, more and more women came to the Divine Pill Pavilion. There were even female cultivators who had reached the sector lord level. The higher the cultivation of the woman, the more yin essence she could provide, and the stronger Yi Qinghan's life force would be. 200 years passed in the blink of an eye. Yi Qinghan's life force had increased to 1,400 years, but he couldn't be injured. Otherwise, he could only wait for death. Just as Yi Qinghan was about to leave the Yang family village, a woman appeared at the door. It was Bai Yuran. Bai Yuran pursed her lips and looked at Yi Qinghan. She asked faintly, "Do you still need a concubine to serve you?" Chapter 1706. Do you still need a concubine to serve you? Bai Yuran finally couldn't bear it anymore. She didn't return to the spirit female sect these years and stayed nearby. Seeing that Yi Qinghan didn't keep a woman by his side for life, she couldn't bear it anymore. She felt that she was the one who could serve Yi Qinghan forever, so she came. Yi Qinghan looked at Bai Yuran's compromise and felt touched in her heart. After all, she was different from the majority of women. "I'm taking the last one. Do you want to follow me?" Yi Qinghan asked with a smile. Bai Yuran nodded firmly. Yi Qinghan tidied up everything and handed the Divine Pill Pavilion to a trusted maid. He had been secretly training some alchemists over the years and left some origin source flames for them to refine boundary-breaking pills and soul-amassing pills. However, there were some restrictions on the quality of the pills. It was already good enough for them to refine boundary-gathering pills. Yi Qinghan couldn't take the female cultivators away. They were all left to work in the Divine Pill Pavilion. With Yang Chun's protection, at least they wouldn't have to worry about food and clothing. Yi Qinghan specifically told them to split the profits in the Divine Pill Pavilion into 5 portions. 1 portion was for Yang Chun, who took 10%. 1 portion was for the consecrators, who also took about 10%. 1 portion was for everyone's remuneration, which took about 30%. Another 20% was left to run the Divine Pill Pavilion. The last portion would be accumulated and given out to everyone every year. This would increase the cohesion of the Divine Pill Pavilion. No one was sadder than Yi Qinghan's departure. Although he received 10% of the profits, it was far less than what Yi Qinghan got here. However, he had no choice. He couldn't find a divine medicine that could understand yin and yang, so Yi Qinghan had to find it himself. Yi Qinghan left Yang Chun with hope. He promised that if he got a divine medicine that could understand yin and yang, he would definitely come back. He asked Yang Chun to take good care of the Divine Pill Pavilion. With such a great expert in the Divine Pill Pavilion, the Divine Pill Pavilion could rest easy. That night, Yi Qinghan only took away 6 million faith coins and Bai Yuan before quietly leaving. No one knew where they went. Yi Qinghan and Bai Yuan pretended to be a weary couple as they prepared to find a big city and use the teleportation portal to head to the Heaven-Suppressing Palace. They would then wipe out the Heaven-Suppressing Palace's officials and repay Lu Qingqing's kindness. However, some things would eventually be exposed. Dream Zun returned to Hell and told the King of Hell the truth. The King of Hell did not need to guess to know that the Heavenly Buddha was fake. What kind of person the Heavenly Buddha was, the Eternal Ones knew best. The King of Hell had contacted the Blessed Buddha at that time. Since someone had impersonated the Blessed Buddha, this matter would naturally be investigated by the Blessed Buddha Temple. In any case, Yi Qinghan could not be allowed to live. Otherwise, who would maintain the order of hell? Who would believe that? Someone had impersonated a Blessed Buddha in Blessed Buddha Temple's territory, causing a huge uproar. The Blessed Buddha was enraged, and Great Buddha Ranmia almost went crazy. All these years, he had been living in fear of being punished by the Blessed Buddha. Who would have thought that the Blessed Buddha was an impersonator? A large number of monks swarmed into the Great Buddha city. All of them were ridiculously strong, and they surrounded the Great Buddha statue behind the Heaven Chant Mansion. Arhatare, send this Buddha to the Buddha's head to check for any clues about the faith. Great Buddha Ranmia was enraged and he scolded. Shwa shwa shwa. The Arhatare was formed one after another, stacking up above the Heavenly Buddha statue. The Divine Bird, who was hiding in the Heaven Room, saw everything clearly and it was trembling in fear. I didn't leave any clues behind, did I? The Divine Bird was terrified, seeing the Arhat array stacking up and getting closer to the Buddha's head. The anxiety in its heart grew stronger and stronger. It immediately turned around and ran. Its fat body rushed out of the Heaven Chant Mansion and along the eaves. It ran out of the Great Buddha City. Once out of the Great Buddha City, the Divine Bird ran towards the mountains far away. Although the Divine Bird was afraid and didn't have the power to protect itself, it was better than waiting for death in the Heaven Chant Mansion. Once they entered the depths of the mountains, the Divine Bird used all of its tricks. It was as wretched as it could be. It used the beast language to trick the intelligent demonic beasts and brought them along the way. Along the way, it found some benefits and made the demonic beasts serve as loyal escorts. However, not long after, the Buddha light in the Great Buddha City soared into the sky. Great Buddha Ranmia roared, no longer caring about his image. Mansion Master Zhang, hand over that stupid bird. Otherwise, don't blame this old monk for tearing down your Heaven Chant Mansion. Great Buddha Ranmia was holding a white feather in his hand. Who else could it be but the Divine Birds? The feather was found in the head of the Great Buddha, and the golden faith also had the divine bird's aura. This confirmed that it was the divine bird who used the faith of the heavenly Buddha statue to disguise himself as the heavenly Buddha. Impersonating a heavenly Buddha and passing a false imperial edict, both were capital crimes. Zhang Yingshi was somewhat baffled. He walked out of the Heaven Chant mansion and saw great Buddha Ranmia burning with anger. He didn't look like a Buddha at all. He couldn't help but frown and ask, "Ranmia, what are you yelling for? Where is Yi Qinghan's spiritual pet, the divine bird? Ever since Yi Qinghan escaped, it has been following you." Great Buddha Ranmia angrily asked. Zhang Yingshi didn't know that the divine bird had already escaped, so he replied, "It's in the heaven room. I don't know what kind of trouble it caused this time." Great Buddha Ranmia was trembling with anger. He pointed at Zhang Yingshi and said, "Mansion Master Zhang, I know this matter has nothing to do with you, but that stupid bird was too audacious. It pretended to be a heavenly Buddha and passed on the heavenly Buddha's sacred edict to let Yi Qinghan go. It's a heinous crime. Although the Buddha is merciful, he will never allow such an evil creature to harm the world. He specially ordered this old monk to capture it and bring it to justice." What? The heavenly Buddha's miracle last time wasn't the heavenly Buddha's edict? It was the divine bird in disguise? Even though Zhang Yingshi was a super expert, he was still shocked at this moment. Who would dare to do such a thing? Wasn't that courting death? Look, do these feathers belong to that stupid bird? They were found in the head of the heavenly Buddha's sculpture. The faith inside still has the aura of that stupid bird. Who else could it be? Great Buddha Ranmia angrily rebuked. Only then did Zhang Yingshi remember that the divine bird had disappeared when Yi Qinghan was fighting. When he returned, it had already run to the heaven room's door. It had the motive and time to commit the crime. No wonder. Zhang Yingshi took a deep breath. Offending the heavenly Buddha and causing the Eternal One to personally issue an order to capture them was probably Yi Qinghan, this daring master and servant. Supreme Buddha Ranmia, please come with me. I will never tolerate a criminal who provokes the Supreme Eternal One. Zhang Yingshi smiled bitterly. With that, Zhang Yingshi led great Buddha Ranmia straight to the 20th floor of the Heaven Chant mansion. However, the divine bird had already fled. No one knew where it had gone. After reaching the 20th floor, Lu Qingqing and others still did not know what had happened. Seeing the angry faces of great Buddha Ranmia and Zhang Yingshi, they could not help but panic. Where's the divine bird? Zhang Yingshi looked at Lu Qingqing. All these years, the divine bird had been with her, and he did not care about it. Therefore, he went straight to the heaven room to look for it. Lu Qingqing looked around in confusion and went back to her room to check again. She came out and bowed. "Mansion Master, it doesn't seem to be in the heaven room. What happened? If any of you dare to hide anything today, I will kill you all. Find that stupid bird for me." Zhang Yingshi angrily rebuked. The 11 Heaven Chant women immediately became busy. They searched all the rooms but found no trace of the divine bird. They could not help but feel helpless. This time, they really did not harbor the divine bird. Seal the Heaven Chant mansion and find the divine bird. Seal the great Buddha city. Capture that stupid bird. Zhang Yingshi and great Buddha Ranmia ordered at the same time. The great Buddha city was alarmed. Chapter 1707. However, after searching for an entire day and night, they still couldn't find the divine bird. It was as though it had disappeared. Finally, on the second day, someone finally returned from outside the city and informed Buddha Ranmia that the divine bird had left the city yesterday morning. However, they didn't know where it went. It was normal for the divine bird to be discovered. However, no one knew that the divine bird was wanted. Therefore, the people who left the city discovered the divine bird but missed out on the reward. Buddha Ranmia was almost angered to death by the divine bird. He didn't expect the divine bird to live under his nose for hundreds of years and slip away again. "I've let down Buddha! I've let down Buddha!" Buddha Ranmia cried bitterly as he knelt on the ground and roared. He was so mad that he wanted to beat himself to death. The great Buddha temple was bustling with activity. The heavenly Buddha had personally issued a decree to capture Yi Qinghan and the divine bird. However, the divine bird had already run deep into the mountains and became the king of the mountains. It had tricked a large group of beasts to follow it. Then, it became the commander and led the powerful beasts to wreak havoc in the mountains. They forcefully seized divine treasures and even plundered the resources of adventurers. The divine bird was also a top-quality beast. When it found the truly good things, it would hide them for itself. As for the higher-grade items, it would give them to its followers. Those followers could only eat until they were full and had a hard time advancing. However, under the divine bird's lead, some of the beasts advanced rapidly and soon gathered a group of powerful beasts. On this day, the divine bird stood on the head of a level 14 flying beast and looked down at its group. It lamented, "The group is getting bigger and bigger. It's getting harder to lead. With so many subordinates, how much food do I need to feed them?" However, the divine bird didn't look troubled at all. It was clearly immensely pleased with itself. It had even forgotten about Yi Qinghan. It proudly led a group of sector lord beasts to search for treasures, kill humans, and rob. Moreover, it was vicious. As long as it was exposed, it would be killed without a doubt. It wouldn't allow its whereabouts to be exposed. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was traveling through the mountain range with Bai Yuran, preparing to sneak into the great Buddha city to search for the divine bird. The two of them used the sky as their blanket and the ground as their mat. At night, they randomly found a cave and began dual cultivation. Although it was difficult, Bai Yuran liked this feeling very much. As for Yi Qinghan, he was already used to the life of a fugitive, finding joy in hardship. On this day, the two of them stepped into the Jade Emperor Peak mountain range and secretly approached some adventurers. They discovered that they were discussing the great Buddha immolation and the divine bird. Their words were filled with schadenfreude. Only then did they find out that the divine bird was also wanted. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "So it's really him. I was wondering why Heavenly Buddha would be so kind as to let me leave. This divine pet of yours is really smart. It's probably the only existence that can make the great Buddha immolation helpless and make Heavenly Buddha personally give the order to capture you." Yi Qinghan shrugged. The divine bird had done many earth-shattering things. Back then, when it was still very weak, it had killed great emperors, tricked great emperors, and killed immortals. If it wasn't for it, he would have died countless times. Find a way to find it. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and sent the star-twining vine out. The star-twining vine took root in the mountain range. Its vines shuttled through the wilderness, crossing over cliffs and mountains, constantly rushing in all directions. Xiao! 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 The star-twining vine swallowed energy as it extended. If it wanted to advance in rank, it would have to eat all the creatures in this mountain range. However, it couldn't do that, so its current target was the divine bird. Countless vines shot out in all directions. At the end of the Jade Emperor Peak mountain range, the divine bird was leading a large group of ferocious beasts to wreak havoc, sweeping through the mountain range. Everywhere they passed, it was like a locust swarm. Even some low-grade divine herbs were taken away by the divine bird. In its words, "You don't know how expensive daily necessities are until you're in charge. Don't treat bean buns as rations. Even a mosquito's leg was meat." Boom, boom, boom. Many ferocious beasts in the Jade Emperor Peak mountain range were fleeing toward other mountain ranges. It was obvious that they were being chased away by the star-twining vine. Those vines were like ghosts, piercing through the defenses of powerful creatures and taking away all their life force. The divine bird discovered that many of these ferocious beasts were level 13 supreme gods and even pseudo-realm lord. It immediately wanted to subdue them. Roar. The ferocious beasts around the divine bird sensed the divine bird's emotions and gathered around, surrounding countless ferocious beasts. The divine bird led a large group of ferocious beasts to confront the beast tide. It roared angrily, shaking the fleeing ferocious beasts so much that they didn't dare to move. Submit to this divine bird and I'll spare your lives. Otherwise, you'll be sentenced to death for trespassing on this divine bird's territory. The divine bird laid on the head of the flying beasts smugly and scolded arrogantly. Roar! The group of ferocious beasts couldn't speak, so they could only use a special beast language to communicate and explain their situation. The divine bird replied proudly, "Submit to this divine bird. If anything dares to bully you, I'll help you get back at them." Soon, under threats and promises, the divine bird obtained the allegiance of this group of ferocious beasts. The divine bird led a large group of ferocious beasts and charged toward the Jade Emperor Peak mountain range. Finally, at the highest peak of the Jade Emperor Peak, the divine bird led a large group of ferocious beasts to the vicinity of the star-twining vine. The divine bird looked at the vines and was instantly enraged. It thought to itself, "Not good, the jinx is here again. It's not safe to follow this fella now. It's better for me to be the king of this mountain." With that, the divine bird shrunk its head and hid behind the flying beast. Shio! Countless vines soared into the sky, intimidating the flying beast. At this moment, the star-twining vine didn't want to clash with the beast horde. It only wanted to force these ferocious beasts away. The ferocious beasts were intimidated by the star-twining vine's aura and didn't know whether to attack or flee. At this moment, they were all looking at the highest flying beast. However, the divine bird hid under its wings and didn't dare to come out. The highest flying beast didn't understand the divine bird's intention. With a shake of its wings, it flung the divine bird out. Screech! After the flying beast caught the divine bird with its wings, it flattered the divine bird, as if it was asking for credit. The divine bird's eyes almost popped out. It wanted to slap this flying beast to death. The star-twining vine noticed the divine bird and immediately sent a soul wave. "Boss, Master is looking for you. Why aren't you coming with me?" The divine bird wasn't willing to give up the territory it had conquered. It said unhappily, "Since you recognize me as your boss, then go back and tell that jinx that you didn't find this divine bird. I'll find him when I become the master of all beasts." The main vine of the star-twining vine soared into the sky like a dragon. It looked down at the divine bird and didn't want to leave for a long time. The divine bird went crazy and said angrily, "Am I not good enough to you? Do you still want to advance?" However, the star-twining vine still didn't leave and insisted on bringing the divine bird back. Whoosh! 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 The main vine transformed into a lightning dragon and coiled around the divine bird, wanting to forcefully take it away. The divine bird ordered the other birds to dodge, but it couldn't escape from the countless vines. It was flustered and exasperated. It couldn't help but curse, "You idiot, if you don't listen to me, don't expect me to find you any divine supplements in the future." The star-twining vine didn't care. In short, it had to listen to its master. Its boss's words could be ignored. After being entangled for half a day, Yi Qinghan had already brought the main body of the star-twining vine over with the help of the vines. They passed through the mountains as if they were flying. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan brought by Yuran with the help of the vines. Like an eagle spreading its wings, they appeared at the highest peak of the Jade Emperor Peak and looked down at the fleeing divine bird. When the divine bird saw that it couldn't escape, it immediately pounced over. It pretended to be overjoyed and said wretchedly, "Master, I've been looking for you so hard. I knew that you were enveloped by luck. Heaven helps the worthy. My disguise as a heavenly Buddha was not in vain. Even if I'm wanted by the heavenly Buddha, even if I'm despised by the world, even if I'm killed by the heavenly Buddha, as long as Master is safe and sound, I'll be at ease." Yi Qinghan smiled and extended his hand to allow the divine bird to land on his wrist. He didn't expose its lowly nature as he said indifferently, "Thank you for your hard work, divine bird. I naturally know of your loyalty and courage." Chapter 1708. The divine bird was stunned by Yi Qinghan's smile. His wretched and obsequious expression made him look extremely despicable. The feeling of being the king of the mountain is not bad. Yi Qinghan teased with a smile. The divine bird rolled its eyes and replied flatteringly, "I'm forced to live and need some bodyguards. Master, let's go and leave this damned blessed Buddha temple. These bald donkeys are all abnormal, fighting and killing all day long. It's just like Buddha. Don't you want bodyguards? If you follow a jinx like me, you'll be at a disadvantage if you don't have any bodyguard." Yi Qinghan reminded it very seriously. "Who said that Master is a jinx? Who is it? Step forward." The divine bird pretended to be angry as it scanned its surroundings. The ferocious beasts around it were confused, as if they were looking at a lunatic. Yi Qinghan was too lazy to continue mocking it, so he went straight to the point and said, "I need you to help me find a treasure. As long as Master wants it, even if it's 10 items, I can get it for you." The divine bird promised. "I just need one, a divine medicine that can understand yin and yang," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. When the divine bird heard that it was a divine medicine that could understand yin and yang, it looked at Yi Qinghan and realized that he only had a little bit of lifespan left. It couldn't help but be shocked. After all, they had lived together for so long. Although Yi Qinghan and the divine bird would mock each other, their relationship was sincere. Seeing that Yi Qinghan only had a little over 1,000 years left and that it would be gone in the blink of an eye, the divine bird couldn't smile anymore. "Master, don't worry. Even if I have to risk my life, I will help you find a divine medicine that can understand yin and yang. Let's go. We'll leave these little bastards to fend for themselves." The divine bird flapped its wings and landed on Yi Qinghan's shoulder, speaking righteously. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took away the start-whining vine. He was prepared to leave the Jade Emperor Peak mountain range and head east. The central area of Eternal World was the eastern region. The blessed Buddha temple controlled the western region. This place was lacking in spiritual herbs. In order to find truly good spiritual herbs, one would need to head to the central area of Blessed Buddha Temple, Spirit Mountain. Otherwise, it would be impossible to find the knowing yin and yang herbs here. Yi Qinghan left Jade Emperor Peak and headed east. With the help of the start-whining vine, his speed wasn't slow even though he couldn't fly. After traversing countless miles of mountain range, he and Yi Qinghan had almost become savages. They were dressed in beast skins and their limbs were bare. As long as the divine bird did not appear, they would not pay special attention to adventurers. They would not recognize Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan and Bai Yuran searched everywhere for the knowing yin and yang herbs. They had searched for a full 100 years, traversing more than 10 huge cities, hundreds of small cities, and countless small villages. However, they still had no luck in purchasing the knowing yin and yang herb. The arrest warrant for the divine bird and Yi Qinghan had yet to disperse. However, Yi Qinghan seemed to have disappeared. The people of Great Buddha City searched for the divine bird in the mountain range, but to no avail. In the end, the search gradually calmed down. Many people were unwilling to provoke Yi Qinghan. After all, many people had seen Yi Qinghan's battle. Without a cultivation of World Lord level 8 and above, who would dare to fight against Yi Qinghan? Now, Yi Qinghan and Bai Yuran had appeared at the border of Blessed Buddha Temple. Blessed Buddha Temple's control over this area was very weak now. Hence, the arrest warrant from Blessed Buddha Temple did not cause much of a reaction. Yi Qinghan swaggered into a small city with Bai Yuan following behind him. The two of them came to a small inn, prepared to gather some information and rest for a day before heading straight to the heaven-suppressing palace. The city was very small and there were not many experts in it. Even the bounty hunters' levels were very low. Even if Bai Yuan released a little bit of his aura, they would not dare to come close. Hence, the city was rather comfortable. After booking a room, Yi Qinghan brought Bai Yuan into a spirit treasure pavilion and bought a star map. On it there were 3 super-factions territories: Blessed Buddha Temple, Sword Tao Great Eternal Sacred Ground, and Saint Spirit Trading Company. The Buddha Lord and Sword Tao Great Eternal Sacred Ground were definitely eternal sovereigns. It was normal for them to become super-factions. However, there were no eternal sovereigns in the living sacred ground, but they were still able to become the overlords of their own territories. Furthermore, the other 4 factions had to give them face. They relied on their great power and resources, endless wealth and treasures. It was said that when the Saint Spirit Clan's clan master personally came out, his status would be on par with an eternal sovereign. Beyond Blessed Buddha Temple was the Sword Tao Great Eternal Sacred Ground. Further southeast was the Saint Spirit Trading Company. Yi Qinghan looked at the map. Even the mountain ranges were clearly marked. Where were the teleportation portals? Where were the cities with a population of over 10 million? Everything was there. Master, this is the most complete star map around. It can be enlarged or shrunk. You can even see some official roads, and it can be updated at any time. In any city, a star map like this would cost at least 800 strands. In a small city like ours, no one else has a star map like this. Hence, 1,000 strands is not expensive. An old man in embroidered clothes explained. Yi Qinghan looked at it briefly and casually tossed 1,000 strands of faith money to the old man before returning to the inn. He opened up the star map and enlarged it. He looked for some bigger cities. These cities had branches of the Saint Spirit Trading Company. Instead of searching aimlessly, he might as well buy them. Furthermore, there was not much time left. He only had less than 1,000 years left. Bai Yuan and the Divine Bird were both looking for branches of the trading company and some big auction houses. They were all on Yi Qinghan's list of targets. After searching through 10 big cities within 3 million miles, he found 6 branches of the trading company and 3 auction houses. After some discussion, Yi Qinghan decided to get the divine herb that knew yin and yang before destroying the heaven-suppressing palace. Otherwise, if he was injured, he would have no chance of survival. After a day's rest, Yi Qinghan and Bai Yuan left the small city. About 300,000 miles ahead, there is a city called Fire Beacon City. Entering Fire Beacon City means leaving the Blessed Buddha Temple's territory. It belongs to the Eternal Sword Tao Sacred Ground. There is a branch of the Saint Spirit Trading Company and a bigger auction house. The divine items they auction are of high quality. Let's try our luck there first. Yi Qinghan decided. Bai Yuan and the Divine Bird didn't refute and followed Yi Qinghan to buy a carriage. The speed of a top-notch divine horse traveling overnight was obviously faster than a person. It would take at least a month to travel 10,000 miles in a day. Yi Qinghan drove the carriage. They traveled during the day and rested during the night. This allowed the divine horse enough time to rest. After traveling for about 100,000 miles, Yi Qinghan led the carriage to a valley. There were dozens of bonfires in the valley. There were many mercenaries standing guard outside the valley. As the carriage approached, the mercenaries surrounded them. This is private land. Do not come near. The leader of the mercenaries, a level 3 sector lord, warned. We are just passing by. If you block the valley, how are we going to let others pass? Yi Qinghan frowned and looked around. There were many people setting up camps in groups of 3 to 5. It seemed like they were not the only ones who were blocked. But the tyrannical mercenaries did not care so much. Their own safety was the most important. Chapter 1709. Outside the valley, it was quiet. Many people were unwilling to provoke these mercenaries. Since they were guarding so tightly, they were definitely protecting someone. Hence, they all stayed far away. Yi Qinghan patiently persuaded them to make a path, but the leader was impatient. He pulled out his sword and scolded, "Scram? F***K, are you giving me face? It's almost dark. If we don't set up camp, are we going to die in the bandit nest?" The sky was dark and they should set up camp. However, outside the valley was not a good place to set up camp. Once there were bandits outside, they wouldn't even have a chance to retaliate. The group of experts in the valley didn't even bother with Yi Qinghan. A middle-aged man walked out of the camp in the center of the valley. He should be the employer. He was surrounded by a group of experts. They coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan and didn't make a sound. They didn't care about what was happening outside the valley. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. He was prepared to open up a path and choose a good place to set up camp. However, Bai Yuran was afraid of causing trouble and quickly pulled him back. "Husband, forget it. It's better to avoid trouble. Let's set up camp outside the valley." Bai Yuran softly persuaded. Yi Qinghan looked around. There wasn't a good place. As long as they were attacked by bandits, even he wouldn't be able to react in time. It was very dangerous. There were more than 10 small groups set up camp outside the valley. At most, there were 3 to 5 people. They didn't dare to provoke the mercenaries. The good spots were all taken by them. "Scram! If you dare to look again, I'll dig your eyes out," the mercenary leader coldly scolded. "Hurry and chase them away." The employer was also very impatient. He walked out of the valley and angrily stared at Yi Qinghan. He could see that Yi Qinghan's life force was dim, but he couldn't see his cultivation. Hence, his attitude was very bad. A middle-aged mercenary walked over. He was around the 6th layer of the Sector Lord realm. He had an apologetic expression and said, "Little brother, I'm very sorry. We are carrying out an urgent mission. Your safety is very important. You can find a place to set up camp. With us here, ordinary bandits won't find trouble with you." Yi Qinghan shook his head and led the carriage to the side. At this moment, an extremely old voice sounded. "Little brother, come and set up camp with us. The location is not bad." Yi Qinghan looked towards the direction of the voice and saw a flat area with a huge rock blocking it. There were 6 people stationed there. A middle-aged man and a middle-aged woman. They looked like a couple. There were also 3 young children around 17 or 18 years old. There were 2 girls and a boy. The youngest was around 8 or 9 years old. They should be migrating as a family. However, their cultivation was not bad. The old man's cultivation was already at the 3rd layer of the Sector Lord realm. The middle-aged couple were both supreme gods, while the 3 children's cultivation was very ordinary. "You can also stay in another tent. You and your wife can squeeze together. Everyone is going out, so there's no need to be so restrained." The old man kindly pointed to the empty space at the side and reminded. Yi Qinghan smiled and nodded. After thanking them, he unloaded the carriage and prepared some spirit herbs for the mystical horse. He then set up a tent at the side. The family over there was currently barbecuing. The aroma of the food was already done. "Little brother, come and eat with us. The long journey is very tiring. We need to replenish our energy so that we can continue tomorrow," the old man said again. Yi Qinghan did not stand on ceremony. He brought Bai Yuran to the family and sat down. He took out a large amount of spirit fruits and spirit liquids and gave them a portion. He said gratefully, "I really have to thank you all. You're too polite. When we go out, we rely on our friends. My father has always been very hospitable. Since we met, it's fate. Come and eat with us," the middle-aged man said with a smile. The old man was called Hua Balang, The middle-aged man was called Hua Jiolong, and the middle-aged woman was indeed Hua Jiolong's wife. The two girls were called Little Yuan and Little Lu, and the boy was called Hua Zichen. Because the family could not afford to pay the tribute, they had no choice but to migrate and prepare to make a living in the central region. Yi Qinghan naturally would not say his name, so he used the name he used in the Yang village. Little brother Yang, you must have come from the territory of the blessed Buddha temple. Where are you going? Hua Balang asked curiously. Yi Qinghan smiled and did not hide his whereabouts. He said honestly, I am an alchemist. I am looking for a divine herb that can control yin and yang. Unfortunately, there are too few of them in the territory of the blessed Buddha temple. We are going to the Eternal Sword Tao Holy Land, Fire Beacon City to try our luck. So you are a great alchemist. This divine herb is indeed rare. It is not something we can come across. We cannot help you. Hua Jiolong said respectfully. Don't mention it. We are all friends. There is no need to be so formal. Yi Qinghan smiled. Yi Qinghan chatted with Hua Balang and the others for a while. After eating and drinking, he went to his tent to rest. Time flew by and the stars twinkled. The quiet night sky was so beautiful. However, Yi Qinghan did not rest. He gathered the spirit energy in the mountains to replenish his life force. Suddenly, Yi Qinghan, who was lying on the ground, changed his expression. Someone is approaching here. There are quite a few of them. Their cultivation level is not weak. They are all walking on plants. Yi Qinghan woke by Yuan up and took out the dark gold rod from his back. It was wrapped in a layer of oilcloth. No one knew that it was the dark gold rod. In order not to make any mistakes, Yi Qinghan spread out his divine sense. He found that not only were there people approaching the valley, there were also many experts on the opposite side of the valley. There were many sector lords. There was an 8th-level sector lord, 4 7th-level sector lords, and no less than 10 6th-level sector lords. Yi Qinghan looked at the people in the valley. He couldn't help but wonder who the employer was to attract so many experts. However, no matter who it was, he had no interest in saving them. He only wanted to protect himself. A sword whistled through the void. The sword light tore through the darkness. Swish, swish. 40 or so people moved as if they were flying, surrounding the valley from above. There were also nearly 100 paramount gods who had surrounded the group on the outskirts of the valley. Not even Yi Qinghan could escape from their encirclement. Hua Balang and his family were awakened. They looked at the experts around them and the 8th-level sector lord in fear. They couldn't help but feel despair. This group of people were clearly not bandits. They weren't ordinary people either. The 8th-level sector lord in the lead was dressed in black. He stepped on an ancient tree at the peak of the valley. The tree didn't move at all. One could see how strong his movement technique was. The mercenaries roared in shock. The people in the valley drew their swords and lit up a large number of torches. The entire valley was illuminated as though it was daytime. The leader of the mercenaries also walked out. This person's cultivation level was also at the peak of the 7th-level sector lord. He could be considered a powerful expert. However, against this group of people, he clearly didn't have any chance of winning. Chapter 1710. Yi Qinghan held onto the oilcloth-wrapped dark gold rod and brought by Yuan to Hua Balang and the rest, sitting by a rock to watch the show. Xingyun, hand your employer over to me, or should I kill you and bring him away myself? The black-robed man stood on the treetop overlooking the valley and asked coldly. It's you. Patriarch Lian, aren't you stretching your hands a little too far? This place belongs to Fire Beacon City, and your Sky Cloud City is here to carry out a mission. Aren't you afraid that our Fire Beacon City will come knocking on your door? The mercenary group leader Xing Yun was shocked as he reprimanded angrily. Since I dared to come, I dare to take the risk. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to consider. If you don't agree, then you can only die. Patriarch Lien Kongfeng replied coldly. 3 breaths of time, was that even considered time? He obviously wanted to make the mercenary group cower so that it would be easier to kill them. Xing Yun was burning with rage as he pulled out his sword and reprimanded, Lien Kongfeng, if we fight today, you won't get any benefits either. Since that's the case, then let's kill. Lien Kongfeng waved his hand and the sector lords all made their moves. Sword light tore through the darkness and a large number of experts blocked the outside. None of the mercenaries could even think of escaping. The people on the outside were so terrified that they didn't dare to move. They could only pray that the Lien family would kill the mercenaries and snatch the employer away before letting them go. Yi Qinghan didn't make a move because he was too lazy to do so. He didn't want to attract any trouble. After all, a Sector Lord 8th level expert was considered a first-rate expert. Interfering in such matters wouldn't end well. Moreover, this group of people had offended him in the evening. Bai Yuan's face was filled with worry as he said softly, "This group of people doesn't come with good intentions. I'm afraid they won't let us off." Bai Yuan wasn't the only one who was worried. As long as one was smart, they would know that this group of people wouldn't let them off. Hua Balang's 2 granddaughters and grandsons were so scared that their faces turned purple as they hid in Madame Hui Yang's arms and shivered. Yi Qinghan shook his head and didn't reply. However, he also knew that this group of people had killed the mercenaries. In order to keep the secret, they would definitely kill them. However, he also didn't want to help this group of mercenaries and their employer. He could only look for an opportunity to intimidate Lien Kongfeng and make them leave. Lien Kongfeng stood on the treetop and did not move. He only stared at Xing Yun. As long as Xing Yun dared to move, he would definitely attack him like a poisonous snake. 4 Sector Lord Level 7 experts rushed into the valley to kill. Their sword gleams were like lightning, tearing everything apart. The mercenaries had no way to resist at all. However, 2 experts rushed out from the employer's side. They were also Sector Lord Level 7 experts and brought the employer to the valley entrance, wanting to kill their way out of the encirclement. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sword light was like a rainbow, forcing back many of the Lien clan's experts. However, it was still unable to break through the Lien clan's defense. Guild leader Xing Yun, hurry up and escort Elder Wang away. As long as this mission is completed, there will be enough money for you to rebuild your mercenary group. An expert beside the employer said angrily. Whoosh, whoosh. Xing Yun unsheathed his sword. His sword aura was majestic as he attacked Lien Kongfeng at the peak of the mountain. Withered leaves fell as the sword image sliced through the mountain rocks. In the blink of an eye, it pierced towards Lien Kongfeng's side. The difference in realms was just a small realm. Lien Kongfeng's lips curled into a cold smile. He was so fast that he didn't even seem to attack. However, the sword gleam was already in front of Xing Yun. Pung! Whoosh! Wang! The 2 swords clashed. Xing Yun's body was directly smashed into the valley. Lien Kongfeng's body was like a cold wind. He was so fast that he disappeared without a trace. His sword drew 3 sword lotuses. The surroundings were covered by countless sword gleams as it pierced towards Xing Yun, who was on the ground. Xing Yun was shocked. He quickly rolled and dodged. He was in a very difficult situation. Puchi! Whoosh! Lien Kongfeng's sword gleam was powerful. Killed all the mercenaries around. The experts didn't even have a chance to resist. With Lien Kongfeng's movement, the mercenaries' situation became even worse. The battle became one-sided. The mercenaries were constantly being killed by Lien Kongfeng. Blood stained the valley. Blood flowed out from the valley. It was a ghastly sight. The mercenary leader who spoke politely to Yi Qinghan was now in a difficult situation. He was surrounded and attacked by 3 Sector Lord Level 6 experts. There were at least 10 sword wounds on his body. However, he still protected his subordinates and escaped towards the valley entrance. The entire mercenary group had close to 100 people. Yi Qinghan watched as they were being slaughtered. He didn't have any intention of helping. Some people did evil and had to bear the consequences. They blocked the innocent people outside the valley. If bandits surrounded them, they would be the first to die. Since the mercenary group didn't care about human lives, how could Yi Qinghan offend a power for their lives? Whoosh whoosh. Pooh, the 3-sector Lord Level 6 experts attacked from the front and back. The 7 to 8 mercenaries behind the leader were instantly killed. Only he was left struggling. In the center of the valley, the old employer's expression changed. He no longer had the ferocity from before. Quick, bring me away. Whoever has the ability, I'm willing to pay 10,000 breakthrough pills and teach him pill refining techniques. The employer, Elder Wang, shouted in fear. It was a pity that the mercenaries didn't have the strength to do so. Xing Yun was suppressed and almost died. The 2 experts beside him were also heavily injured. Master Lien, I wanted you to represent the Lien clan to become the champion of the pill refining convention. It's a pity that you didn't recognize Gold and Jade. You actually chose to help Fire Beacon City. You can't blame us. You think only our Lien clan acted today? Does our Lien clan have so many experts? Lien Kongfeng laughed coldly. He waved his sword as fast as lightning and pierced through Xing Yun's head. His soul couldn't even escape and was shattered by the sword qi. With Xing Yun's death, the mercenary group was even more miserable. In the blink of an eye, only the Sector Lord Level 6 leader was left struggling. However, not long after, he was killed by 3 experts of the same level. The 2 experts sent by Fire Beacon City couldn't protect Master Lien. They couldn't protect themselves and were suppressed by 4 experts of the same level. In 2 hours, no one was left alive in the valley. Master Wang's pill refining techniques were not bad, but his battle strength wasn't. He was shattered into pieces by Lien Kongfeng and his storage ring was taken away. A cold wind blew through the valley. The stench of blood was nauseating. The blood dyed the sides of the mountain red. It was extremely terrifying. Family leader, what do we do with the people outside? A Sector Lord Level 6 expert bowed and asked. Of course, destroy the corpses. Do we leave them alive? Lien Kongfeng glanced around, his eyes emotionless. Kill! No. Family leader Lien, we definitely won't betray you. We didn't see anything today, Rumble. Xiao Xiao. Pu Ci. Dozens of sword shadows began their killing spree. The cultivation levels of the people outside weren't high and there were only a few of them. They were in groups of 3 to 5. How could they withstand the attacks of so many experts? In a short while they were all killed. Only Yi Qinghan and Hua Balang's family were left. They didn't move. Hua Balang wanted to bring Hua Jiulong and the rest to escape, but his strength was too weak. He couldn't break through the encirclement of Sky Cloud City's people. Moreover, Yi Qinghan was blocking them, not allowing them to leave. An ignorant paramount god drew his sword and charged towards Yi Qinghan. However, just as he reached Yi Qinghan, he lost control of himself. He hugged his head and screamed. His soul was instantly shattered into pieces, but his body wasn't injured at all. He died in a tragic manner. And the 3 Sector Lord Level 6 experts who killed the mercenary leader were the closest to Yi Qinghan. When they realized something was wrong, they joined forces and charged over. But just as they got close to Yi Qinghan, they were sent flying. Their chests caved in and their backs bulged as though they had suffered a heavy blow. They fainted on the spot. Yi Qinghan's speed was too fast. It was so fast that even Sector Lord Level 6 experts couldn't resist. Chapter 17:11. The 3 Sector Lord 6th level experts were heavily injured and fell far away from Yi Qinghan, causing the Hua family to look at Yi Qinghan in shock. But Yi Qinghan was expressionless as he continued to sit beside the rock, holding onto the oilcloth-wrapped dark gold rod, as though he had not moved at all. Lien Kongfeng frowned as he looked at Yi Qinghan. Killing intent flashed past his eyes as he said coldly, "To think that there's an expert hidden here." Yi Qinghan wore a faint smile on his face. His appearance didn't change much, just that he looked weathered and had a sense of vicissitudes. That temperament had changed too much, so it was normal for others not to recognize him. "Dao friend, where it's possible to let people off, it's only the few of us left and the 3 children. Don't scare them." Yi Qinghan replied indifferently. "Since you've seen us carrying out the mission, do you think we can let you leave? Once the news is leaked, it will be a confrontation between Sky Cloud City and Fire Beacon City. By then, the ones who will die won't just be the few of you, so sacrificing some people is still necessary." Lien Kongfeng replied coldly. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He didn't expect Lien Kongfeng to say this to him. "Why bother? I asked you to carry out the mission and didn't interfere. This means that I'm not willing to interfere in your matters. Don't tell me you must force me to make a move?" Yi Qinghan laughed bitterly. "Kill yourselves and I'll leave your corpses intact. I'll bury you in this treasured land." Lien Kongfeng stepped forward with his sword in hand, his movements light and swift, leaving behind afterimages. Shua! Xiu xiu xiu! 10 over-experts surrounded the valley, surrounding Yi Qinghan and the others tightly. Yi Qinghan's large hand gripped the dark gold rod tightly as killing intent flashed past his eyes. If he made a move today, the moment the dark gold rod was exposed, this group of people would not be left alive. "Why bother?" Yi Qinghan sighed. "That's right, why force this old man to make a move? This group of people are the backbone of some of the clans in Sky Cloud City. Not to mention you, even if a Sector Lord 8th level expert came personally, he would have to retreat." Lien Kongfeng replied coldly. "You should leave. Don't force my husband to take action. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a pity to die here?" Bai Yuran reminded helplessly. "Ha ha ha ha!" Wild laughter came from the valley, endless mockery. Hopperang and his family were also in despair. One Yi Qinghan couldn't possibly overturn the situation, could he? Yi Qinghan looked at the mocking faces of this group of people, lowered his head, and sighed. He waved his hand and placed the star-twisting vine on the ground, allowing it to traverse the ground. The vine looked into the distance and actually surrounded this group of people. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan lifted the dark metal rod and pulled down the layer of tarpaulin. The rod shone with a golden light, illuminating the valley as if it were daytime. "I haven't made a move for hundreds of years. Everyone must have forgotten about me." Yi Qinghan caressed the dark metal rod as he muttered to himself. The golden light was especially dazzling. Even Kong Feng was shocked, feeling that this rod looked familiar. "Isn't this the dark metal rod?" A Sector Lord 6th level expert asked in shock, as if he wasn't sure. Who didn't know about Yi Qinghan's battle? One man and one staff against more than 30 experts from the 3 major factions. Of those 30 experts, the weakest was at the 7th level of the Sector Lord realm. They were also familiar with array formations and were good at teamwork. The strongest expert was Hell's Dream Supremacy. Any one of them was an overlord. That battle not only made Yi Qinghan famous, but also the Dark Gold Staff. Because the owner of the Dark Gold Staff was a half-step Eternal Sovereign, Yi Qinghan relied on it to kill several experts and resist the encirclement of the enemy for several hours. He's that lunatic. Yi Qinghan, the wanted criminal of the 3 major powers. It's him. As soon as the dark metal rod appeared, as long as the group wasn't stupid, they should have guessed Yi Qinghan's identity. Why bother? Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. Gulp. Lien Kongfeng's face was pale with fright. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His cultivation was enough to deal with ordinary people, but he might not even win against a supreme demon god. How could he fight against Yi Qinghan? Esteemed Lord, I'm old and blind. I ask for esteemed lord's forgiveness. Please don't bicker with us, Lien Kong Feng said in fear. Sha sha sha. After Lien Kong Feng finished speaking, he kept retreating, not daring to show his back to Yi Qinghan. The group of people outside didn't even have the courage to look at the dark metal rod, let alone surround Yi Qinghan. Xiao! 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 Countless vines soared into the sky like snakes flicking their tongues, making one's scalp tingle. One. Yi Qinghan raised his rod, and the dark metal rod shook the air. His aura soared, enveloping the valley for 1,000 meters. Everything within 1,000 meters was his domain, and within that domain were the gods. Everyone else was like ants. Since you know my identity, do you think I'll let you live? Yi Qinghan's voice became cold and emotionless. He coldly retorted, I've already reminded you to spare people whenever possible. Don't force my hand. Why bother? Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Qinghan stomped on the mountain rock. A crack appeared in the valley, and a golden light streaked across the horizon, drawing a huge crescent moon in the sky. It streaked across the sky above Lien Kong Feng's head. Boom. Bang. Ding. Lien Kong Feng lost his head out of fear. He raised his sword to block, but the divine sword was directly shattered by the rod. The rod's momentum was like a rainbow, and even Lien Kong Feng's body was cut in half. The rod was like a sharp blade, unstoppable and unstoppable. Poochie. Lien Kong Feng's body was split into two, and his flesh and blood were shattered into pieces. His soul was completely annihilated by a destructive law. A level 8 expert had died just like that. Boom! The dark metal rod split the ground, and its aura soared into the galaxy. The aftershock killed dozens of experts. The experts outside were so scared that they almost peed their pants. They all madly fled, but the star-twining vine had already placed countless vines outside. The vines pierced through their throats and chests. Every expert was surrounded by countless vines without exception. Xiao! 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 Peng! 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 Yi Qinghan's figure borrowed the power of the ground and soared into the sky, instantly killing all the level 6 and level 7 experts. Their corpses were thrown to the star-twining vine for it to devour. His actions were ruthless and merciless. Hua Balang's family was also scared silly by Yi Qinghan's madness. They weren't fools, and it was impossible for them not to know of Yi Qinghan's reputation. Especially those near the blessed Buddha temple, almost everyone had heard of Yi Qinghan's name. Yi Qinghan was a wanted criminal by the 3 major powers, and it was impossible for him to reveal his whereabouts. Now that they knew, they would definitely be killed. Hua Jilong looked at his father in fear. Hua Balang didn't know what to do either. He didn't expect to encounter 2 assassination attempts tonight. The last one wasn't just an assassination attempt, but a killing god. Shwa! A golden light flashed, and Yi Qinghan had already kept the dark metal rod into the oilcloth. He carried it on his back and stared coldly at Hua Balang's family. Peng! Hua Balang immediately knelt down and said in despair, Lord Yi, we will definitely not reveal your whereabouts. Please spare my children. Hua Jilong was also in despair. At this moment, he couldn't just let Yi Qinghan kill them. He had to try his best. He also knelt down in front of Yi Qinghan and begged to spare the 3 children. Gotcha! Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fists, and his killing intent grew denser. Bai Yuran noticed Yi Qinghan's killing intent and was shocked. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to even want to kill them. He hurriedly pleaded, Husband, they are innocent, let alone the children. Chapter 1712. Yi Qinghan wanted to kill them, but Bai Yuran was too straightforward and stood in his way. Hua Balang and the others also wanted him to leave the 3 children behind. Hua Balang looked at Yi Qinghan's cold and emotionless eyes and said in despair, Master Yi, this old man is willing to commit suicide. Please leave the 3 children behind and wipe away their memories. They won't betray you. Yi Qinghan sighed. As the saying went, one should be lenient wherever possible. After wiping away their memories, even if they had a chance to recover their memories, they would not know where he would be by then. He said, "Don't resist. I'll wipe away your memories and leave. We've never met before." After saying this, Yi Qinghan wiped away the memories of the 3 children and knocked them unconscious. Afterwards, he wiped away the memories of Hua Balang, Hua Jialong, and Hua Yangshi, making them fall asleep. Afterwards, he burned the blood in the valley. Most of the corpses were devoured by the star-twisting vines, leaving nothing behind. Afterwards, Yi Qinghan brought the family of 6 out of this region. He found a relatively safe place and left under the cover of the night. A month later, outside Fire Beacon City, a carriage slowly arrived. The guards outside the city were quite powerful, and there were quite a few of them, but they were not very strict with the people passing through. Yi Qinghan got off the carriage. His face was covered with hardships, and he had long since lost his previous dignified appearance. The guards only took a glance behind the curtains of the carriage. Bai Yuran was not very beautiful, and could only be considered an ordinary village woman. They would not make things difficult for people like her, so they waved their hands and let her pass. Yi Qinghan arrived in the city. After selling the carriage, he found a medium-sized inn and stayed there for around a month. There was a branch of the Sacred Spirit Company and an auction house in Fire Beacon City. These were all targets that Yi Qinghan was looking for. Just as Yi Qinghan finished arranging everything, a huge commotion occurred in the Fire Beacon City's City Lord's residence. The City Lord's mansion was majestic and domineering. There were hundreds of bejeweled jade buildings in the main city. The main hall exuded a domineering and majestic aura. The spirit qi in the courtyard was oppressive, and spirit herbs were everywhere. The originally peaceful City Lord's mansion was now filled with a tense atmosphere. A figure sped away at an extremely fast speed. In the main hall, a spirited old man was flipping through ancient books. Beside him was a young man and woman, who seemed to be discussing something. At this moment, a middle-aged man walked in from outside the door. He looked at the old man anxiously. "City Lord, I have something important to report." The middle-aged man looked at the young man and woman with an awkward expression. "Private Advisor Chui, is there something that even us siblings can't know?" the young man asked in surprise. The spirited old man nodded and said, "Little Chui, this old man is preparing to let my beloved grandson and granddaughter, Xian Luo and Xian Xian, take over all matters in the city. If you have anything to say, just say it." Private Advisor Chui bowed and said, "Alchemist Wang Zhong is dead and his life tablet is shattered. We don't have enough people to attend the alchemy conference. This year, I'm afraid." The old man frowned as he questioned in dissatisfaction, "Little Chui, didn't I ask you to send someone to protect Alchemist Wang? Don't you know how important this year's alchemy conference is to us?" Private Advisor Chui gave a bitter smile as he hurriedly explained, "I sent 2 Realm Lord 6th level experts and also hired a decent mercenary group. The group leader is Fire Beacon City's Xing Yun, but without any exception, all of them are dead. It's said that there was a death battle in a valley at the intersection of Fire Beacon City, Blessed Buddha Temple and Sky Cloud City. There are some corpses that prove this matter, but no one knows who did it and no one knows where the other party went." The city lord was infuriated as he clenched his fists. But very quickly, he adjusted his heartbeat as he looked at the 2 young men and asked indifferently, "Xian Xian, Xian Luo, what do you think we should do?" Qin Xianluo and Qin Xianxian were Fire Beacon City's Qin Fenghua's favorite juniors. In terms of intelligence and innate talent, the both of them were top-notch. In terms of cultivation, that girl was at Realm Lord 6th level and was unrivaled in the same level. Qin Xuanluo's cultivation had also reached Realm Lord 7th level and his battle power was even higher. The both of them weren't flustered as Qin Xianluo replied respectfully, "Grandfather, the most important thing now is to find a pill master. Even if the grade of the pills that he refined isn't the best, at least he can hold on for now. As for pill master Wang Zhong, since he's already gone, let's put him aside temporarily. It's a waste of energy to put all our energy on a dead person." And that's right. As for Wang Zhong's cause of death, we'll talk about it after our Fire Beacon City obtains victory in the Alchemy Conference. Xian Luo, Xian, I'll leave the both of you to find a suitable pill master. It'd be best if you can find a 14th grade top divine pill master. If you really can't find one, a 14th grade ordinary pill master will do as well. Anyway, we can't give up on this competition and I'll personally handle the rest of the matters. Qin Fenghua's fingertips tapped on the table as his brows were tightly knitted, asking them to leave. The siblings quickly left, each using their own methods to find a suitable pill master. Obviously, the siblings would fight for power and favor. Whoever could solve this matter and solve Qin Fenghua's urgent problem would naturally gain more power and resources in the future. Qin Xianxian could be considered a top-grade woman. She had a voluptuous body, black hair, and big round eyes. However, her expression was more like a man's. She was resolute and didn't look weak at all. If she didn't have 30,000 followers, then she had at least 28,000 followers. Most of them were heirs of rich and powerful clans, as well as chief disciples of powerful sections. At the moment, there were over 10 young experts sitting in her courtyard, all of them handsome and refined, all of them with transcendent cultivation bases. "I need your help. Help me find a pill master at all costs to represent our Fire Beacon City in the Alchemy Conference and get into the top 3. You should know that if we can get into the top 3 in the Alchemy Conference this year, the Pill Master Association will have a chance to stay in our Fire Beacon City. A Pill Master Association can bring us a lot of profit. It's extremely beneficial to the Fire Beacon City's Qin family, the other families and sects. Everyone's offerings in the coming year will be reduced by a lot." Qin Xianxian said in a deep voice. "Xianxian, even if it's not beneficial to us, as long as you ask, we will definitely help you." "That's right. Xianxian, the most important thing now is to find a pill master who is willing to participate in the Alchemy Conference for us." Many men expressed their loyalty and Qin Xianxian nodded her head. "Everyone, how can we find a pill master? And recruit him for our own use?" Qin Xianxian asked gloomily. It was extremely difficult to find a pill master. Even if they could find one, it was almost impossible for them to recruit him for their own use. Moreover, pill masters had always been hot-tempered. If they could cater to their interests, they might have a chance to get their help. However, if they offended them, they would never have another chance. "Xianxian, what are pill masters most interested in?" "It's nothing more than rare divine herbs, rare treasures, or rare pill recipes. As long as we have a pill recipe or a rare divine herb, we will definitely be able to attract a pill master," a young man said confidently. Qin Xianxian was overjoyed. She looked at the young man and asked, "Brother Luo, do you have a feasible plan?" Chapter 1713. Fire Beacon City was bustling as usual. However, it was even livelier recently because there were several auctions that attracted adventurers from the surrounding cities. Yi Qinghan was one of them. He had not gone out in the past few days, and had been cultivating in seclusion with Bai Yuran. His life force had been greatly depleted recently, and he only had less than 700 years of lifespan left. After a battle and a high concentration of his soul, under such exhaustion, he might have been fine normally, but now he was in an extremely weak state. His body could not bear such a huge burden, and was on the verge of death. In the room, Yi Qinghan and Bai Yuran were undergoing yin-yang harmonization. Bai Yuran tried her best to give Yi Qinghan more life energy. Yi Qinghan's skin was wrinkled. After losing the divine light, the yin-yang harmonization couldn't restore him to a better state. After a round of lovemaking, Yi Qinghan sighed sadly. His hair had turned white and his face was full of wrinkles like a 50-year-old mortal. Yi Qinghan looked at himself in the mirror as if he was looking at another person. The divine bird was anxious. 700 years was enough for a mortal to do many things. However, for a Sector Lord 8th layer expert, it was like an incense's worth of time. Yuran, I'm going out to see if there's any good news from the auction house. Don't go out if there's nothing important. Yi Qinghan left the tavern with the dark gold rod wrapped in oilcloth. He walked aimlessly on the streets. Even if he didn't try to hide himself, not many people recognized him. After all, this wasn't the blessed Buddha temple. So much time had passed, and no one would pay attention to him. Master, this isn't a good sign. 700 years will pass in a nap. The divine bird reminded anxiously. N. Yi Qinghan nodded. N. The divine bird frowned and asked. N. Yi Qinghan emphasized. This word represented his endless helplessness and despair. The divine bird was also helpless. This city didn't seem to have anything that could control yin and yang. However, it couldn't be sure and it couldn't give up either. After all, some divine objects were treasured by people. At this moment, the divine bird raised its eyebrows and looked at the city lord's mansion. An inexplicable energy made it excited. In Qin Xuanxuan's courtyard in the city lord's residence, Luo Xingyu took out a jade pendant. The shape of the pendant was very strange. It looked like the 8 trigrams of yin and yang. It was filled with energy, but it was restrained and did not leak out. It was definitely a good divine jade. Xianxian, this isn't a family heirloom, but it's something that's passed down from husband to wife. It's called the yin-yang jade. It's a jade pendant, but it can be used as a medicinal ingredient for a divine pill alchemist. Someone once came to my house to purchase it. It's worth 3 million strands of faith, but my mother wasn't willing to part with it. As long as you show me this yin-yang jade, a divine pill alchemist will come knocking on your door. Luo Xingyu smiled and handed the jade pendant to Qin Xianxian. Qin Xianxian looked hesitant, but he didn't take the yin-yang jade. If he did, it would be equivalent to admitting that he was the daughter-in-law of the Luo family. Luo Xingyu, you despicable man! How dare you take advantage of her? The other young men shouted angrily. That's right. What are you trying to do by forcing Xianxian to marry him? Luo Xingyu, if you're short of money, I'll buy this yin-yang jade for 3,500,000 strands of faith. I'll give it to Xianxian without any additional conditions. More than 10 young men shouted angrily at Luo Xingyu, but their eyes were fixed on the yin-yang jade. Not only could they sell it for a good price, but they could also get a divine pill alchemist to help them. Qin Xianxian would also treat them differently. It was killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Luo Xingyu sneered and said disdainfully, if I really wanted to take advantage of her, why would I take out my family heirloom? Xianxian knows what I mean. I wouldn't even frown if it was 30 million strands of faith, let alone 3 million strands of faith, because Xianxian is priceless in my heart. Then what are you talking about? Isn't it clear what you're trying to say? If Xianxian takes your yin-yang jade, she'll be the daughter-in-law of the Luo family. Isn't this taking advantage of her? A strong young man stood up beside Qin Xianxian and stared coldly at Luo Xingyu. Luo Xingyu glared at the crowd angrily. However, he couldn't offend the crowd. Moreover, Qin Xianxian was hesitating. He could only snort and keep the yin-yang jade. At this moment, Yi Qinghan kept the divine bird and walked to the entrance of the city lord's mansion. He cupped his fists and said, I'm an alchemist and I'm here to visit the mansion lord. Coincidentally, Qin Xianluo was out with a few of his brothers to look for a divine pill alchemist. When he heard Yi Qinghan's words, he was overjoyed. He stopped in his tracks and bowed to Yi Qinghan. So it's the alchemist, esteemed master. I'm Qin Xianluo, the grandson of the city lord of Fire Beacon City. May I know what grade of alchemist you are? What brings you to Fire Beacon City? Why don't you tell me? I'll do my best to help you. Qin Xianluo was a smart person. He asked first before expressing his goodwill. Yi Qinghan looked at Qin Xianluo. Seeing that Qin Xianluo was being so nice, he suddenly remembered the alchemist who was killed in the valley. Fire Beacon City was probably in desperate need of a divine pill alchemist. However, for the sake of obtaining the divine pill alchemist, he had to take the risk. I can concoct the level 14 divine pill, the boundary breaking pill, and the soul amassing pill. I'm here to look for a medicinal ingredient, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Qin Xianluo stared at Yi Qinghan in shock. He was getting whatever he wanted. Honorable Divine Pill Alchemist, do you have a certificate from the Alchemist Association? Qin Xianluo rubbed his hands excitedly and asked. I don't need the Alchemist Association's approval, Yi Qinghan replied proudly. Qin Xianluo looked at Yi Qinghan awkwardly. This was the first time he heard a divine pill alchemist looking down on the Alchemist Association. There were many divine pill alchemists in the Alchemist Association. There was even a level 16 divine pill alchemist. May I know what medicinal ingredient you're looking for? As long as I have it, I'll give it to you with both hands, Qin Xianluo thought to himself. He was ready to test Yi Qinghan's true abilities. It's a divine pill that understands yin and yang. It's a level 14 divine pill, or perhaps a divine treasure. The divine treasure in your residence might not be a level 14 divine pill, but it's a middle divine pill. In addition, it understands yin and yang. It's worth 3 million strands of faith. As long as you're willing to sell it, I'm willing to pay 4 million, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Understands yin and yang? Qin Xianluo frowned. As far as he knew, there was no such divine treasure in the residence. It was rare to find one that understood yin and yang. Even if it was a level 14 middle divine pill, it could be sold for an extremely high price. Master Qin, you might not know. Why don't you enter the residence and ask? I'm willing to buy it at a high price. I can even help you once out of friendship, Yi Qinghan reminded him calmly. At this moment, Qin Xuanxuan's trusted aide had already informed her of what had happened outside the city lord's residence. Qin Xianxian brought Luo Xingyu over personally. Seeing how certain Yi Qinghan was that there was a divine pill alchemist in the residence, Qin Xianxian knew that he wasn't a divine pill alchemist for nothing. Divine pill alchemist, you're right. I do have a divine pill alchemist with me. However, I'm not selling it. Qin Xianxian stared at Yi Qinghan and said in a low voice. Chapter 1714. Outside the gates of the city lord's residence, a group of disciples from wealthy families had gathered. They were all staring at Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian. The most excited person was Luo Xingyu. If Qin Xianxian accepted the yin-yang jade, it would mean that he agreed to marry the city lord's favorite granddaughter. What was a mere yin-yang jade to him? Yi Qinghan looked at Qin Xuanxuan's attitude. Even if he didn't sell, it didn't mean that he couldn't negotiate. 3 million faith coins was a huge fortune to many people. However, to a city, it was just a drop in the ocean. Fairy, if you don't want to sell, can I use other divine treasures to exchange for it? Yi Qinghan asked. Sure, you can be a guest of the Qin clan and exchange it for the yin-yang jade. However, before that, I would like to test your alchemy skills. Would you agree? Qin Xianxian went straight to the point and asked directly. Guest? Yi Qinghan frowned. He was used to being free. How could he settle down in a big city? Can you let me see what grade the yin-yang jade is? Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He had no choice but to submit to the current situation. After all, he didn't have much time left. Luo Xingyu quickly took out the yin-yang jade and handed it to Qin Xianxian. Qin Xianxian took it without hesitation. He bowed and presented it to Yi Qinghan. Qin Xianxian frowned and looked at Luo Xingyu. He realized that Luo Xingyu was very excited. The light in his eyes was strange. He knew that Qin Xianxian had a deal with him. Yi Qinghan reached out and took the yin-yang jade. He realized that this jade indeed contained a large amount of yin-yang jade. However, its grade was very low. It couldn't even reach the mid-grade of level 14. At most, it could sustain one's life for 10,000 years. Its grade is very low. It can't be considered a supreme treasure. If you are willing to sell it, I am willing to pay 4 million faith coins. Yi Qinghan held the jade pendant and looked at Qin Xianxian expectantly. He hoped that he could buy it directly and not owe Qin Xianxian a huge favor and become a guest elder of Fire Beacon City. 4 million was indeed a very tempting price. Even Luo Xingyu was a little tempted. Unfortunately, Qin Xianxian was a very smart woman. When she saw the anticipation in Yi Qinghan's eyes, she knew that he really needed this yin-yang jade. She immediately shook her head and said, "Esteemed master, you know that I don't lack money. I won't sell it. If you are really a divine alchemist, I am willing to give it to you. But you have to become a guest elder of the Qin clan." Yi Qinghan shook his head regretfully and pretended to give up. However, Luo Xingyu was unwilling to give up and quickly said, "I'll sell it for 4 million. Qin Xianxian was furious. She waved her hand and threw out a storage ring. She said coldly, "Since you are so short of money, here are 1 million faith coins. Keep the change." "This yin-yang jade belongs to me," I said. "I am not selling it." Luo Xingyu couldn't tell that Yi Qinghan was deliberately giving up. However, Qin Xuanxuan's eyes were sharp. She was very sure that Yi Qinghan urgently needed the yin-yang jade and wouldn't give up. Luo Xingyu held the storage ring awkwardly and didn't know what to do. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He didn't expect this little woman to be so smart. She seemed to have him in her grasp. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. "I won't be able to stay in Fire Beacon City for long because this yin-yang jade isn't of much use to me. I still need to purchase a true high-grade yin-yang divine medicine or divine treasure." Yi Qinghan said honestly, "As long as you agree, I will buy it for you. No matter how bad my Fire Beacon City is, we can still buy a high-grade divine treasure. Give me 1,000 years and I will give it to you with both hands. If you can find a suitable replacement during this period, you can leave on your own. I will not stop you." Qin Xianxian said confidently, "That's right. I can promise you on behalf of my sister. If she can't buy it, I will buy it for her. I also hope that Divine Alchemist can become a guest of Fire Beacon City. You are free to do as you wish, and we will not interfere. We will only ask for your help when Fire Beacon City needs you." Qin Xianxian was smarter. He opened his mouth and snatched Qin Xuanxuan's credit. Qin Xianxian glared at Qin Xianxian unhappily. Then, he looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly. Yi Qinghan smiled. However, he wasn't smiling at the siblings. Instead, he was smiling at the owner of Fire Beacon City, Qin Fenghua. This was because Qin Fenghua was hiding in the dark and watching him. He was also testing his grandson and granddaughter's abilities. "All right. If that's the case, I will accept your offer." Yi Qinghan waved his hand and handed the yin-yang jade to Qin Xianxian. He said confidently, "Please prepare the alchemy room. I will prove that my value is definitely greater than a divine medicine or divine treasure that knows yin." Before Qin Fenghua appeared, Qin Xianxian wanted to snatch the credit. However, Qin Xianxian stopped him. He took the yin-yang jade and led Yi Qinghan into the alchemy room. If he could concoct a level 14 divine alchemist, he would be a level 14 divine alchemist. Yi Qinghan was very skilled. He had all the ingredients he needed. It was as easy as waving his hand. He knew everything by heart. He quickly concocted a cauldron of breaking barrier pills. The alchemy cauldron was almost melted by his divine fire. The surrounding temperature was even more terrifying. Qin Fenghua looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. He stared at the weapon wrapped in oilcloth on his back. He was suspicious of Yi Qinghan's identity. This person's combat power is unfathomable. He is a level 8 sector lord and a divine alchemist. It is impossible for him to not have a high-grade storage ring. However, the weapon on his back cannot be stored in the storage ring. This means that it is a divine weapon that surpasses a top-grade boundary artifact. Why would such an existence appear here so coincidentally? Could it be that he is really here to find the divine medicine that knows Yin? Qin Fenghua mumbled to himself. 1 hour later, a fragrant aroma filled the entire courtyard. Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianxian were excited. They looked at each other. They were almost certain that the divine alchemist in front of them was the real deal. Yi Qinghan formed a seal with his palms. He extinguished the divine fire and sealed the alchemy cauldron. The fragrant aroma was contained. The pills were condensed. Bang! The lid of the alchemy cauldron was opened. A ray of divine light shot into the sky. 20 supreme-grade boundary-breaking pills. There was not even a single upper-grade pill. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out 20 boundary-breaking pills. He placed them in front of Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianluo. He said confidently, "Can I accept the title of Divine Alchemist?" Clap, clap, clap. Ha ha ha! At this moment, Qin Fenghua walked out personally. He clapped his hands and laughed. "Master, I have been in Fire Beacon City for many years. I know some divine alchemists. Their skills are not as good as Mr. Yang's. It is impossible for them to create 20 supreme-grade boundary-breaking pills in one cauldron. There is not even a single upper-grade pill. Your alchemy skills are extraordinary. I dare not say that you are a divine alchemist, but you are definitely the number one person below the divine alchemist." Yi Qinghan bowed slightly and said, "You are too kind, Castellan. My name is Qin Fenghua. I led hundreds of brothers to conquer this city. If you don't mind, we can talk as equals. You can call me Old Qin and I will call you Mr. Yang. How about that?" Qin Fenghua said straightforwardly. "Grandfather." Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianluo quickly bowed and said, "That's right. Xianxian, you have done a great job. You don't care about 4 million faith points. You would rather let Mr. Yang leave than sell the yin-yang jade. This is enough for me to rest assured and hand over all matters in the city to you," Qin Fenghua said with a smile. "Old Qin, you have a pair of smart granddaughter and grandson. Congratulations." Yi Qinghan glanced at the siblings and said calmly, "That's right. I, Old Qin, have nothing to be proud of in my life. It's just this city and these 2 children that make me smile." Qin Fenghua smiled and gestured with his hand. "Mr. Yang, please enter the main hall. Today, I will treat you to a drink. I hope you will give me some face." Chapter 17-15. Qin Fenghua looked like a decrepit old man, a hero past his prime. No one knew how long he had been in this world. Even the city was not as old as him. His every move exuded a powerful aura. Yi Qinghan looked at Qin Fenghua. He knew that this person was unfathomable. Whether it was his realm or combat power, he could not measure it. Even if he was at his peak, he could not win. It was not an exaggeration to say that such a terrifying person was an ambitious person. Yi Qinghan took Qin Xuanxuan's yin-yang jade and followed Qin Fenghua into the main hall. Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianluo accompanied them. The 4 of them chatted for about 4 hours. Yi Qinghan understood his duty, which was to get into the top 3 in the Alchemy Conference and keep the Alchemy Association headquarters in Fire Beacon City. If the Alchemy Association headquarters was located in Fire Beacon City, the prosperity of Fire Beacon City would surpass countless cities. The Alchemy Association headquarters had already announced that they would choose one of the top 3 cities to build the Alchemy Association headquarters. Therefore, if they wanted the Alchemy Association headquarters to be located here, they had to get into the top 3. Yi Qinghan nodded. They had reached an agreement. Qin Fenghui gave Yi Qinghan the quietest courtyard in the city lord's residence. It was next to a mountain and beside a lake. There was a bamboo garden with all sorts of things. It was surrounded by a celestial aura. After Yi Qinghan confirmed the location, he returned to the inn and brought Bai Yuran over. It was safer to stay in the city lord's residence. He did not have to worry about being exposed. At night, Yi Qinghan sat on the bamboo bridge and allowed the moonlight to shine on him. He looked at the flowing stream under the bridge. The fish popped out of the water and blew bubbles. His eyes were scattered as if his soul had left the 9 heavens. Qin Xianluo and Qin Xianxian were not the only ones standing in the distance. Qin Fenghui was there too. Qin Fenghui's eyes were deep. He looked down at Yi Qinghan and said in a hoarse voice, "Men, go and investigate this person's background. At the same time, find out what weapon he has on his back. But do not reveal any flaws. Otherwise, forget it. Let Xianxian do it. The others are not to go near the god alchemist." "Yes, sir." A black figure left the main hall and quickly disappeared. The night was captivating, and the moonlight was like water, sparkling. Qin Xianxian was wearing a white dress that fluttered in the wind like a fairy. She had a head full of shiny black hair. She stared at Yi Qinghan and felt that he looked familiar. However, she couldn't see the essence of Yi Qinghan. After all, the gap between them was too big. "Mr. Yang, aren't you going to rest? Are you homesick?" Qin Xuanxuan's smile was enough to topple cities, and he looked even more charming at night. Yi Qinghan leaned against a stone pillar on the bridge and glanced at Qin Xianxian from the corner of his eye. Although he was shocked by her beauty, it was not enough to make him lose his composure. Seeing the object reminds me of the person. Unfortunately, the object is no longer the person. Yi Qinghan looked at the surroundings of the lake. There was a circular passageway paved with smooth stones, and the lake water was clear. It was as though he had returned to a certain place and walked with Bai Xiaoxing all the way to the end of Bai Xiaoxing's life. The scenery was so familiar, but it was a pity that the scenery had changed, and so had the people. "I don't know why, but I keep having a feeling that I know you. Have we met before?" Qin Xianxian stared at Yi Qinghan curiously. The feeling of familiarity was getting clearer and clearer, but she still could not figure out that he was the wanted man, Yi Qinghan. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's face was like that of an old man with one foot in the grave. Compared to the high-spirited Yi Qinghan who was at the peak of his power, his temperament was completely destroyed. Not many people could recognize him. "Perhaps we have met before, but I have forgotten." Yi Qinghan did not deny Qin Xuanxuan's suspicion. Otherwise, with her intelligence, she would be even more suspicious. Qin Xianxian walked slowly and stopped not far behind Yi Qinghan. She asked calmly, "Mr. Yang, may I sit down?" "As you wish." Yi Qinghan replied calmly. Qin Xianxian sat behind Yi Qinghan and stared at the dark gold rod on his back. However, it was wrapped in oilcloth and her divine sense could not penetrate it. She could not find out what kind of weapon it was. "Mr. Yang, according to my careful observation, you don't seem to be an old man. Your hair is white and your skin is wrinkled because you lack vitality. You want a divine item that can control yin and yang. You want to refine a divine elixir to make up for your lack of vitality. Am I right?" Qin Xianxian sat on the stone bridge, and her slender legs landed on the water. Her voice was melodious. Although it was pleasant to hear, it was hair-raising because her observation skills were too sharp. It's not a good thing for a woman to be too smart. Yi Qinghan finished speaking and stood up to leave. Qin Xianxian pretended to lose her balance and fell into the water. Her jade-like hands couldn't help but reach for the dark gold rod on Yi Qinghan's back. Yi Qinghan's body moved gracefully and silently dodged her. This time, Qin Xianxian really lost her balance and fell into the river. Bang! Qin Xianxian was like a beauty falling into the water. She turned into a mermaid and rushed out of the water. Her body was wet and she looked even more seductive. However, she was embarrassed and angry at Yi Qinghan. She said angrily, "Don't you know how to help me? I wasted the yin-yang jade on you to extend your life. You're a smart person. You shouldn't have used such a stupid method to test me. This is a small lesson. I won't do it again," Yi Qinghan warned her coldly. Boom! Qin Xianxian slammed her palm on the water and splashed up. She was swept up by the waves. Her long dress spun and splashed water everywhere. Her dress opened up, revealing her slender legs that extended all the way to her thighs. Her legs were as white as lotus jade. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan did not even look back. He turned around and returned to the bamboo garden. Seeing Yi Qinghan's coldness and lack of desire, Qin Xianxian stomped her feet angrily. Qin Fenghua and Qin Xianluo stood on a tall building and looked down. They laughed at the scene. Qin Fenghua laughed heartily while Qin Xianluo laughed gloatingly. Yi Qinghan returned to the bamboo garden and set up the energy-gathering formation and isolation formation. He then sat cross-legged under the moonlight. With the help of the yin-yang jade, divine light enveloped his golden body. His skin slowly became crystal clear and his wrinkled skin was filled with vitality. However, his face did not change at all. He did not need to change because he needed this appearance to hide his identity. With the yin-yang jade as the medium, the endless yin and yang energy in the world gathered in the bamboo garden. The entire fire beacon city could feel it clearly. Whoosh! A ray of light enveloped Yi Qinghan. The moonlight and the yin and yang energy intertwined. It was beautiful. Although Qin Fenghua was powerful, he was shocked by Yi Qinghan's ability to gather the yin and yang energy. Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianluo were even more shocked. Whoosh! Qin Fenghua appeared in the vision of Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianluo. He reminded them sternly, "This person's strength is absolutely terrifying. You have to consider yourselves as juniors. Do not provoke him. Do you understand? This person is not from the older generation. He is clearly very young." Qin Xianxian said, feeling wronged. "Of course I know. He is very young, but he is also very terrifying. No one in the younger generation of Fire Beacon City can stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Even the masters of the powerful sects in the city may not be his match," Qin Fenghua said in a deep voice. Chapter 17-16. The Qin siblings looked at Qin Fenghua suspiciously. If he said that Yi Qinghan was strong, they would believe him. However, if he said that his strength surpassed all of the younger generation in Fire Beacon City, that even the previous generation's patriarch was no match for him, then that was too much of an exaggeration. Qin Fenghua shook his head and sighed. "Maybe I saw wrongly. However, if I'm not wrong, we have to investigate his background." The next morning, Yi Qinghan woke up from his cultivation. He stood up in the courtyard, and the yin-yang jade in his hand turned into dust and scattered with the morning breeze. Yi Qinghan had recovered a portion of his vitality. However, he shook his head helplessly. The yin-yang jade had the attribute of yin and yang. However, it couldn't restore his vitality to its original state. It could at most extend his lifespan by 10,000 years. His skin flickered with divine light, sparkling and translucent. Precious light flowed about, but his face didn't change much. However, it was already 30% similar to his previous self. This was something that couldn't be helped. His vitality had recovered for 10,000 years. Even if he deliberately avoided recovering his face, it would still recover a little. Bai Yuan walked out and saw that Yi Qinghan had almost recovered. She was inexplicably happy. However, she still couldn't feel the pressure from Yi Qinghan. 10,000 years was no different from a few hundred years to someone like him. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door outside. "Mr. Yang, there's an auction today. Would you like to take a look?" A clear voice was heard. Outside the door, Qin Xianxian was wearing a purple robe. She had a smile on her face and seemed to have forgotten about what happened last night. Women who liked to smile had good luck, let alone a beautiful woman. She was confident that she could investigate Yi Qinghan's identity. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and opened the door to the bamboo garden. He said calmly, "Allow me to change my clothes. I'll go immediately." After saying this, Yi Qinghan quickly entered his room and changed into a set of black robes. He carried the dark gold rod on his back and walked out. Bai Yuan and Yi Qinghan followed Qin Xianxian out of the city lord's residence. Qin Xianluo had been waiting for a long time. He had a smile on his face and didn't look arrogant at all. "Mr. Yang, my younger sister and I will accompany you to the auction today. If you need anything, just name your price and let us juniors pay for you," Qin Xianluo said with a bow. Qin Xianxian glared at Qin Xianluo in dissatisfaction and said coldly, "Brother, can you stop following me around?" However, Qin Xianluo did not reveal his emotions. He said calmly, "Senior Yang is of high status. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for my younger sister to take care of him alone. After all, she's just a girl. It's difficult for her to take care of him. Let's go. After participating in the auction, I'll go to some trade associations to shop around. Maybe I can buy some godly medicines," Yi Qinghan said calmly. With that, Yi Qinghan took the lead and left the city lord's mansion, heading straight for the main street. Qin Xianxian stared at Yi Qinghan's back. At this moment, he looked more like a young man. His back was ramrod straight and he was 8 feet tall. His temperament was gradually returning. The group of 4 continued to walk as if nothing had happened, but each of them had their own thoughts. At the entrance of the auction house, there was a lot of traffic today. Many people had already entered with their VIP cards. At the end of the day, Qin Xianluo was still a man. Everything he said and did was very appropriate. When they arrived at the entrance, he walked up to Yi Qinghan and presented him with a VIP card. A servant quickly led them to a private room. The location was quite good, and they could see the entire auction house. Yi Qinghan sat by the window and looked down at the auction house. The decorations were similar, but this auction house was bigger and grander. The items being auctioned were more expensive. This made the divine bird's blood boil. It tried to break free a few times, but was forcefully suppressed by Yi Qinghan. "Be honest. I can still hide my identity. If you run out, do you think we can still leave this place today?" Yi Qinghan frowned and reminded the divine bird. The divine bird curled its lips. It was helpless. Who asked it to have such a reputation? There were still 2 hours before the auction began. Everyone was waiting silently. Qin Xianxian stared at Bai Yuan. He realized that this woman was really unbearable. Although she looked young, her face was full of hardships. There were wrinkles on her face, and her skin was dry and cracked. He could only say that she was a defective product. He couldn't understand why a divine alchemist like Yi Qinghan would keep such an ugly woman by his side. Bai Yuan had been by Yi Qinghan's side for so many years and had more or less learned some experience. It was enough for her to remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of her. She allowed the raging waves to crash against the shore as she sat there calmly. She noticed the disdain in Qin Xuanxuan's eyes and only smiled. Her confidence and calmness caused Qin Xuanxuan's attitude to change. Qin Xianluo sat beside Yi Qinghan. He explained to the experts in the city one by one. However, there were many unfamiliar experts in the city recently. Even he didn't recognize them. However, Yi Qinghan was familiar with some of them. Mu Zun, the leader of the bounty hunter headquarters in the territory of Blessed Buddha Temple, brought along 2 experts. Mu Zun's appearance didn't make Yi Qinghan too nervous. However, the appearance of the 2 groups of people made him tremble in fear. Blessed Buddha Temple's great Buddha Ranmia and that old man Liang Zhengtai actually appeared too. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. He was curious as to why they would come here. He thought to himself, could it be that my location has been exposed? Impossible. Even Qin Xianxian can't recognize me standing here, let alone other people. Strange. Why would this group of people come to my fire beacon city? Qin Xianluo was also curious. No matter how useless he was, he should at least recognize great Buddha Ranmia and Mu Zun. When Qin Xianxian heard this, he hurriedly stood up and looked out of the window. When he saw the faces of this group of people clearly, his consciousness suddenly rumbled. A bolt of lightning flashed across. The sense of familiarity with Yi Qinghan suddenly became clear. Qin Xianxian stared at Yi Qinghan for a while. The light in his eyes grew brighter and brighter. He restrained himself. The smile at the corner of his mouth became a little strange. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end from Qin Xuanxuan's smile. He clenched his fists but didn't do anything. Don't worry, Senior Yang. I'm not a fool. Those people couldn't stop you back then. They definitely won't be able to stop you today. I also don't have to sell you for that little bit of money. That little bit of money can't even buy my yin yang jade. I won't make a bad deal. Qin Xianxian secretly transmitted his voice. I've said it before. Being too smart won't do you any good. Yi Qinghan warned him coldly. Ha ha ha, I can't help it. I was born this smart. Qin Xianxian chuckled. He covered his small cherry lips with his delicate hand. His body trembled as he winked at Yi Qinghan. He asked provocatively through voice transmission, do you think I should call you Senior Yang or Lord Yi? Yi Qinghan glared at Qin Xianxian coldly. He didn't reply. How about this? I'll call you Mr. Yang in public. I'll call you Master Yi in private. You'll teach me battle techniques. That's settled. Qin Xianxian didn't feel embarrassed at all. He forcefully accepted Yi Qinghan as his master. Yi Qinghan was a little angry. He replied in a muffled voice, I'm not interested. I don't accept disciples. It's all right. I believe you won't reject me if I accept you as my master. Otherwise, I'll call you Master Yi, Qin Xianxian replied calmly through voice transmission. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He let go of his fist. He didn't know what to say. This stinky woman is courting death. Be careful that she doesn't expose us. The divine bird secretly transmitted a soul message. Yi Qinghan knew that it would be dangerous if this continued. However, if he ran away like this and stole their yin-yang jade, Fire Beacon City would definitely join forces to hunt him down. Chapter 1717. Yi Qinghan remained silent. Qin Xianxian didn't dare to force him and the room fell into a dead silence. Not long after, Qin Fenghua also appeared. This made Yi Qinghan even more puzzled. This auction wasn't considered big. Why would it attract so many experts? The Qin siblings were also surprised. Apparently, they didn't receive any special news. But not long after, the appearance of a person shocked the Qin siblings. It's the Ghost Hand Sword King, Zhong He. He's here too. What's going to be auctioned today? Why didn't we receive any news? Qin Xianluo asked in shock. Didn't you see? Those who came are all the older generation experts. Without exception, all the older generation in Fire Beacon City are here. Wang family, Luo family, Divine Tiger Sect, Kai Tian Men. Sky Cloud City's 3 great families, 4 great sects and even Sky Cloud City's City Lord are all here. Qin Xianxian stared at those old men who were walking in as he spoke in a serious tone. Yi Qinghan wasn't interested in the others. But this ghost hand sword king, Zhong He, was a troublesome person. He estimated that he was on par with Liang Zhengtai or even stronger. His hands were much smaller than the average man, but the calluses on his hands were huge. It should be due to years of sword training. His subconscious gesture of retracting his hand was so fast that even he couldn't react in time. It could be seen that this person's sword speed was unparalleled. "Who is this ghost hand sword king, Zhong He?" Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. "He's a sword Dao expert from Eternal World's Central Earth Saint Empire. He's also the supreme of the gambling world. He has never lost to anyone in his gambling skills. Rumor has it that his fastest sword speed is so fast that even a half-step Eternal Sovereign can't see it clearly. Among the Realm Lords, he's absolutely unparalleled. No one can beat him in any gambling skills. Even an Eternal Sovereign can only tie with him," Qin Xianluo said excitedly. "And this person treats money like dirt. He's so rich that no one dares to gamble with him now. He's a real loser. I heard that he once swore that if anyone can beat him at the gambling table, he's willing to give up all his wealth," Qin Xianxian explained. "So awesome." The divine bird was a little doubtful. In terms of gambling skills, it was quite good. With its mouth, very few people could beat it. The Holy Empire of the Central Plains was known as the #1 force in Eternal World. The Holy Emperor of the Holy Empire was the legendary Eternal Overlord, the oldest existence in the mortal realm. Some Eternal Ones were even his grand disciples. 9 disciples, 9 Eternal Ones. Since then, he had never accepted any more disciples. In the past, the Sinner Eternal Sovereign had offended the Central Earth Holy Empire's Holy Lord. With just a few words from that existence, the sinner had been suppressed for countless years and still hadn't been released. In Eternal World, even an ordinary citizen of the Holy Empire of the Central Plains would receive an extremely high level of treatment. The Holy Empire was transcendent, and so were its citizens. Not to mention a powerhouse like Ghost Hand Sword. Yi Qinghan frowned as he looked at so many experts. He was looking forward to the divine artifacts that would be auctioned today. However, in terms of wealth, even if there were really divine artifacts that people coveted, he wouldn't be able to afford them. Time flew by and 2 hours passed by quickly. The auction house officially began after a row of extremely beautiful women wearing revealing clothes walked past. The auctioneer was also a woman, but the appraiser was an old man with high prestige. He stood there with prestige, and no one doubted that the goods being auctioned this time were substandard goods. It was even more impossible for them to be fake goods. This time, all of you are powerhouses from various major forces. Let's not waste everyone's time. In the first half of the day, only 10 divine artifacts will be auctioned. The highest bidder will win. I hope everyone will participate in the bidding. Don't use your strength to suppress others. Otherwise, you will be blacklisted by the auction house and will never be invited again. The auctioneer reminded in a crisp voice. Let's begin. With Senior Ghost Hand Sword here, who dares to behave atrociously? Qin Fenghua said indifferently. Then let's begin. The first item is a peak level 14 divine herb, an essential ingredient for the longevity pill. Heaven and Earth Saint Lotus. It grows in a place of extreme yang and contains the vitality of heaven and earth. It can defy the order of hell. Combined with a divine herb that knows Yin and some other supplementary ingredients, under the fusion of a saint pill master, it can be used to create the longevity pill. It can revive the dead, regrow flesh and bones. Even someone at the 9th layer of the world overlord realm can live another life. The auctioneer waved her hand and took out a brocade box. However, she didn't open it. Moreover, the surroundings were sealed by a seal array, but one could still feel the majestic vitality. Yi Qinghan's eyes twitched. Wasn't this divine herb exactly what he was lacking? Although it wasn't as good as the divine herb that knows Yin and Yang, It was much better than the yin-yang jade. The starting price is 5 million strands of faith money. You can also use divine items to replace money. The auctioneer announced the starting price. It was truly shocking. Yi Qinghan's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. The amount of faith money he had was only enough for one bid. He didn't even have the chance to bid a second time. 5,500,000 strands of faith money. Yi Qinghan lowered his voice. His voice was very hoarse. Although it was expensive, he couldn't not bid. Ha! Although this old man isn't a Saint Pill master, but there will always be a chance to gather the ingredients for the longevity pill and ask a Saint Pill master to help once. Then this old man will bid 6 million strands of faith money. An old man directly called out Yi Qinghan's bottom line. A ninth layer of the world overlord realm wasn't immortal. Others might not be able to kill them, but time could. Many of them had already reached the end of their lifespan and didn't have much time left. Qin Fenghua's lifespan was even longer than this city. How much time did he have left? Only he knew. 7 million strands. Ghost Hand's sword didn't enter the box. He just sat in the lobby and casually called out the price. Yi Qinghan could only sigh. Senior Wang, you have entered the half-step eternal realm, right? The longevity pill is useless to you. Why compete with the younger generation? A rough voice came. The door of a private room on the second floor opened and a burly man walked out. He held a string of Buddhist beads in his hand and carried 3 divine swords on his back. His eyes were like torches as he said faintly, I bid 1 million strands of faith money. Ghost Hand Sword's old face revealed a smile. He shook his head and stopped bidding. This kind of thing was indeed useless to him. The bids below were no longer hundreds of thousands of strands of faith money, but tens of thousands of strands of faith money. Qin Fenghua was also bidding. His lifespan wasn't as long as others thought. Even hundreds of thousands of years was just a matter of waving his hand. Inside the private room, Qin Xianxian saw Yi Qinghan's anticipation and secretly transmitted, Senior, do you have the ability to refine the longevity pill? If I have the ability, I am willing to help Mr. obtain this heaven and earth sacred lotus. Yi Qinghan turned his head and looked at Qin Xianxian. She was so calm that she didn't seem like a girl at all. Could she take out 7 to 8 million strands of faith money? I can't be sure, but there will always be a chance, Yi Qinghan replied in a serious tone. Using 8 million strands of faith money to bet on a furnace of longevity pills that might not be able to be refined. If you lose, it will be very painful. Qin Xianxian hesitated. After all, if she wanted to buy the heaven and earth sacred lotus, she had to use her family's name because she didn't have that much faith money. I want to pay 4 million strands of faith money. If I can refine it in the future, a furnace of longevity pills will produce about 10 pills. You and I will split it equally, Yi Qinghan replied firmly. Chapter 1718. Yi Qinghan's words dispelled Qin Xuanxuan's doubts. 4 to 5 million coins for 5 longevity pills was definitely worth it. Wealth came from danger. Qin Xianxian stood up immediately and pushed open the window. Qin Xianxian from the Qin family bids 2 million coins. The price was raised by 500,000 coins in one go. The current price was much higher than before. Moreover, the heaven and earth sacred lotus might not be able to produce a longevity pill. If a single heaven and earth sacred lotus was eaten raw, it would be worthless. It might not even be as effective as a divine artifact worth 1 million coins. Qin Feng did not stop her. He was a smart man and knew that Qin Xianxian would not act recklessly. Qin Xianluo looked at Yi Qinghan and knew that his little sister had reached an agreement with Yi Qinghan. He regretted that he was one step behind Qin Xianxian. 2 million coins going once. 2 million coins going twice. No more bids? Then the heaven and earth sacred lotus goes to Qin Xianxian upstairs. 2 million coins sold. The auctioneer said excitedly. The first treasure was already worth 8 million strands of faith money. Everyone was looking forward to the following items even more. As for those young experts, they didn't even dare to open their mouth. Millions of strands of faith money was something they couldn't afford. They also didn't dare to act recklessly. The brocade box was soon sent upstairs. Qin Xianxian was out of money. 4 million coins were her savings over the years, and she had given them all to Luo Xingyu. She could only look at Qin Xianluo and said, "Brother, I'm out of money. Pay me for 2 million coins. I'll ask Grandpa later and I'll pay you back." Qin Xianluo frowned. He was furious. His sister was really something. She took advantage of him and did not even pay a single cent. If he paid this amount and Qin Feng gave him the money back, would he dare to accept it? This was his life's work. It was the foundation for him to build his own power. Yi Qinghan watched the siblings fight for power. Neither of them were easy to deal with. However, it was rare for the brother to lose to his sister. It showed how meticulous Qin Xianxian was. "Brother, you can't bear to part with it, right? Why don't I go down and ask Grandpa for it?" Qin Xianxian raised his eyebrows and asked. Qin Xianluo's heart was on the verge of collapse, but he had no choice but to hand over a storage ring, which contained 4 million strands of faith money. Finally, he took out a second storage ring and said in a muffled voice, "Little sister, you spent so much faith money to buy the heaven and earth sacred lotus. If it was for Senior Yang, I wouldn't say anything, but can you use it for yourself?" Qin Xianxian snatched the storage ring and handed it to Yi Qinghan. "Senior and I bought the sacred lotus together. You don't have to worry about it. I will definitely pay you back." Yi Qinghan, however, was too lazy to pay the bill, nor did he want to show his face in public. He simply connected the 2 storage rings and put his 4 million strands of faith into the ring before throwing it to Qin Xianxian. Qin Xianxian paid the bill and was about to open the brocade box when Yi Qinghan stopped him. He reminded him, "This kind of holy lotus contains endless vitality. It has already left the soil that nurtured it. Once the seal is removed, part of its medicinal properties will disperse." Qin Xianxian held back his curiosity and put away the brocade box. At this time, the second divine treasure was being auctioned. It was a level 14 divine treasure material, which was the best material for a top-grade boundary artifact. It was enough to forge a divine weapon for a 9th-level sector lord expert. The starting price was 10 million strands of faith money, which made people speechless. Yi Qinghan ignored this divine treasure material. He couldn't afford it. Yi Qinghan moved the dark gold rod from his back to his chest and gently stroked it. He didn't dare to return the dark gold rod to the half-step Eternal Sovereign when he escaped last time. He didn't know if that existence would blame him. After a while, the divine treasure material was bought by an unknown expert. The price was set at 16 million strands of faith money. For a true expert, money was useless. Only things that could save one's life were the real divine treasures. Money. Yi Qinghan watched quietly. 10 divine treasures were taken out for auction one after another. The 9th divine treasure had already been sold. The last divine treasure was the finale. It was a transcendence artifact, a divine treasure used by a half-step Eternal Sovereign. Moreover, it wasn't damaged. The starting price was 50 million strands of faith money. Ordinary people couldn't use such a transcendence artifact at all. It was very difficult for a 8th-level sector lord to use it. Moreover, it was difficult for them to exert even 10% of its power. Only a weirdo like Yi Qinghan could use more than 50% of its power. Many people sighed. However, several terrifying existences appeared in the auction house and competed with the Ghost Hand Sword sect for the Transcendence artifact. The price soared. Yi Qinghan felt his blood boil. The price soared to 90 million strands of faith money. Even an old monster like Qin Fenghua couldn't intervene in the competition. The ghost hand sword sex Zhang He didn't blush and kept bidding. The auctioneer explained that the Transcendence artifact was a 5-foot heavy saber from the Eternal Era. It was a divine weapon used by a half-step Eternal Sovereign. However, its evil aura was too strong. All the people who used it died unnatural death. In the end, it had to be put up for auction. However, would a capable person care about the evil aura of a weapon? The ghost hand sword sect seemed determined to get it. He didn't hesitate to add 1 million strands of faith money every time. Yi Qinghan watched silently and found that there were still 3 people bidding. They were Mu Zun, Liang Zhengtai, and the Ghost Hand Sword Sect. At this moment, he hoped that the Ghost Hand Sword Sect could compete for the finale divine weapon. After all, he wasn't an enemy. Liang Zhengtai and Mu Zun were enemies, especially Mu Zun. Sure enough, the Ghost Hand Sword Sect didn't care about money. The price was set at 100 million. Although Mu Zun was unwilling, he didn't dare to compete with the Ghost Hand Sword Sect's Zhang He. He didn't even dare to say a word. In the end, he left resentfully. Liang Zhengtai still looked old and unfathomable. At this moment, he was defeated. However, he raised his head and looked at Yi Qinghan's private room. He couldn't see Yi Qinghan, but he could feel Bai Yuran's aura. However, he wasn't sure. So, he just glanced and didn't say anything. Whoosh! Everyone only saw a shadow flash. It was as if their eyes were blurred. The 5-foot heavy saber was in the Ghost Hand Sword Sect's hand. It was too fast. The speed of his attack was unfathomable. Even Yi Qinghan, who was staring at the Ghost Hand Sword Sect, couldn't see how he attacked. They weren't on the same level at all. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and looked away. He didn't want to interact with this kind of person because he was too strong. There isn't anything good left in the auction. Let's go? Qin Xianxian suggested. Yi Qinghan nodded as he watched those old acquaintances leave. He stood up and prepared to go to some trading companies. He wanted to see if he could buy some treasures that could understand yin and yang. Even if he had to pay for them, he would only have to pay a small fee. The 4 of them had just left when they saw old Liang standing not far away and staring at the door. When Yi Qinghan and Bai Yuran appeared, their eyes met. Yi Qinghan's cold aura was restrained. He held the oilcloth-wrapped dark gold rod. His heart was beating wildly. If he was exposed again, he would definitely die in Fire Beacon City. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.